is looking at you, kid.
I'm Charles Foster Kane!
Hey, Stella!
Suck on this.
What is going on, everybody? This is Wrong Reel episode 670. It's a podcast for hardcore cinephiles where we tackle everything from Jean-Luc Godard to Jean-Luc Picard. And today, I'm reuniting with the great Robert O'Mara for a conversation about the career of one of the most intoxicatingly provocative filmmakers alive. And that's the last time I'm going to try to pronounce anything with a French accent, but Catherine Breillat, or Catherine Breillat, as a lot of people refer to her. But luckily, Robert moved to France recently, so he'll be there with like a safety net to catch us each time we slip up on pronunciation. In any case, This topic is for adults only. If you don't like hearing discussions of controversial films and controversial sexual terrain, bail out now. This is going to be called the foot and mouth episode, because I guarantee you Robert and I will occasionally say things that you might find repulsive or disgusting, but cinema needs to be dangerous and extreme and exciting at times, and we're going to absolutely give credit where credit is due, because this channel is devoted to film culture, and part of film culture is wrestling with challenging filmographies by really interesting directors. So yeah, but I guess this is like the episode where the podcast becomes positively radioactive, carved out of my gravestone. But Mr. O'Mara, it's been a hell of a long time since you and I recorded together. Welcome back to Wrong Reel.
It's great to be back as always. Yes. I think it was last July, the last time we talked on Wrong Reel. So yes, it's good to be back, and I'm in a better place than I was back then. Which I've found myself a new home, and I'm all settled in, and things are looking good. You know.
When do you think you'll lose the Irish accent and develop a full-blown French country boy accent?
Oh, I don't know. The sooner the better.
How would you characterize a rural French accent versus one that might be more Parisian?
I mean, most of the French people I know are rural, so I don't really. That's the kind of French I'm used to listening to. But I do know that like people from Paris, when they hear someone from the country, they know they're like a country bumpkin kind of thing. But I couldn't tell you the difference, you know. I suppose
how many Catherine Breillat fans can you find in the area around your new home?
Well, I mean, I've talked to a few of my neighbors who claim to be cinema fans, and none of them have said they recognize the name. But that could be my pronunciation.
That's amazing. That for Americans, if you say name like your top 5 favorite French filmmakers alive today, I would guess that most cinephiles are going to bring up Catherine Breillat, because she's been writing books and writing scripts and directing movies for 50 years. It's so funny how another country looking at another, it's like, sometimes the grass is always greener. Like people can overlook really cool films from their own country because everybody's always looking for the other.
Yeah, but I suppose if I was talking to filmmaker friends in Paris, which I haven't asked, they probably would know her name. But down here I'm not too far from. I'm about an hour's drive south of where she was born in Niort, so cool. It's kind of Breillat territory around here. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
It's basically the same sort of Catholic French countryside that she grew up in. So.
Well, before we dive into her remarkable filmography, let's talk about you. What have you been busying yourself with? Last time I spoke to you, you had some tentative plans for getting some 35mm prints and some seats and having a little rural Robert O'Mara Cinematheque. What would catch everybody up on what you're working on?
Well, it's funny because I found this house. It took me about 7 or 8 months to find it, and you kind of want to signal that you've bought the right place, because you're putting it all in. You're putting all in, and you want to know that you bought the right place. And while I was buying it, I was looking for 20 cinema seats for a screening room that's going to be part of the studio. And I saw this guy was selling 90 cinema seats for €1,400. So I phoned him up, will you sell me 20? No, you have to take the whole lot. I need to get rid of them tomorrow. So I rented the truck. Went down there, and he says, I actually made a mistake. It's not 90, it's 120. So he gave it to me for €1,400. So I ended up with 100 spare cinema seats.
Well, you can build a movie palace now.
Yeah, well, I thought, oh, I'll sell them off and make a little bit of a profit, you know. But in the meantime, I bought this house, and the real estate agent said to me, "You're going to have some new neighbors because there was another property next door which was also bought." And so when they moved in about a month after I did. I went round to say hello and was talking. It's a father and a daughter. The daughter has a house and a barn. She's a ceramics artist, and that she lives in the house, and the barn is going to be her studio. And then the other barn next door, which is a huge big barn, is the father's. And he brings me inside because I said, yeah, I'm a filmmaker, going up a film studio. So he brings me inside, and there on pallets is this giant 35mm projector from a cinema, you know. And his plan is to open up a cinema there, you know. So I'm like, hey, Gilles, come in here to my house. So I brought him in. I showed him my 100 spare cinema seats, you know. I said, so the two of us are like, wow, this is fucking like synchronicity, you know. So yeah, so anyway, he plans. He's got like a huge stock of like 35mm prints, black and white French films going back from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, you know. And so I was like, well, fuck, I'm going to start buying some prints because I want to get involved. If I'm going to give him all my cinema seats, then I want to maybe do like once a month cult cinema night, you know. So
Totally.
let me just show you this here, James. I just put this aside. Now, whoever thought that celluloid was so heavy, right? This is reel one of 2 reels of, I don't know if you can see that there, but it's Le Specialiste. It's a Sergio Corbucci spaghetti western, you know.
Very nice.
It's like 55 years old. This print, I got it for 150 euros. You know, it's a really good nick. No vinegar syndrome or anything. It's like the third part of Sergio Corbucci's Blood and Mud trilogy. You know, so I bought that, and I bought a French subtitled version of Apocalypse Now, and I bought The Men's Club, this Harvey Keitel, Roy Scheider film from the 80s. And yeah, I'm not going to buy too many because they're, you know, I can't. It's not like buying a DVD, but I'm going to pick up a few, and then once a month, once he gets the cinema open in about 8 months or something like that, I'll do what, you know, a cult cinema night myself, and just maybe have someone down to do a chat, introduce the film and whatever. And
does he have enough expertise with the projector where, like, I mean, I'm assuming as digital projectors take over and film projectors die off, if a part breaks, it's very hard to replace. Like having like a classic car, sometimes like you're missing just one little piece to make everything go well. But does he have enough history as a projectionist where he can step in?
He does, and he also has a second of the same projector for parts, you know. And this is a huge projector. It's massive. Like it's like 6 foot high and maybe 6 foot long and like 3 or 4 feet wide. It's a huge contraption, you know.
And the IMAX projectors are even bigger. When you see an IMAX projector, like the frames of film are as big as like a goddamn comic book, but an IMAX projector is it's like a sofa.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just intrigued, and I'm really looking forward to just getting to learn how to operate the bloody thing and just have to change reels and stuff like that, you know. But yeah, no, it was really cool having that as my new neighbor. So I kind of knew, yeah, I'm in the right place, you know.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, now it's just all systems go for me trying to get to convert my own property, barns and stuff, into studio. You know, I had a housewarming weekend back in October, and Bill Scurry made his way down just for one night. You know what I mean? But we had a good time watching shorts.
How accessible is it to get to the French countryside from Amsterdam? Is it a quick train ride, or do you have to hop on a plane?
Yeah, no, it's a quick train ride, like from Amsterdam to Paris. I don't know, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours or something like that on the TGV. And then from Paris, you'd have to change stations, and then it's a TGV down here, probably about 2 or 3 hours as well. So it's not really a long journey. It's probably taking about 6 or 7 hours in total, you know what I mean, for changing and all that stuff. But no, he made it. I was like,
presented him with a Catherine Breillat level, I guess, evening of debauchery when he finally arrived.
Yeah, no, we had a great time. No, because he arrived down, basically, he got here about 8 o'clock at night, and he was gone like first thing the next morning. We stayed up all night watching shorts, some of his shorts, some of mine, some of my friends who were here. We played some pool, we drank a lot of pastis, and yeah, we had a great time, you know. So it was really good. It was very nice to have him there. So yeah, we had a good time, you know.
Well, I don't know if it definitely won't be this spring, but one spring I need to fly over there, and you and I can hop on the train and go to the Cannes Film Festival. Maybe once you have like your first new short or feature from your new studio you're designing that you're ready to take to market and try to sell, then we can all go down there and raise hell for a couple days. And,
yeah, but I also wanted to pitch like Once Upon a Time in Paris, so we can go visit a load of Melville locations from you know, Bob Le Flambeur and all that sort of stuff. So we can
do those places even, like those locations even exist anymore? Like,
less.
70 years old.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Paris is like Dublin. It didn't get knocked down, you know what I mean, during the war. So everything's
Like New
intact.
York's never been knocked down, but it's changing
Yes,
all the time. Like certain landmarks from movies. Like if somebody were to come to New York and say, "Take me to all the famous locations from Taxi
yeah.
Driver," I'd be like, "Sucks to be you," because they've all been leveled.
Right. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, no, I don't think. No, most of the locations that I know from, say, like Bob Le Flambeur and stuff, they'd be still there. Absolutely.
What is that Rue de yada yada yada? Where like at least in the '60s, like in my mind, I just have this fantasy of like all the marquees are nothing but like Godard and Truffaut and whatnot. But what is that area where all the films famously used to be, or it used to be featured in all those French New Wave flicks?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you, man. I'm not familiar with. I've been through Paris like 20 or 30 times, but always on the change, going from one station to the next to go somewhere else, to go south or go north. You know what I mean? So I'm not really familiar with Paris. I've stopped and went to record shops, going looking for buying records. That's about all I've been done in Paris. You know. So
Gotcha. Well, let's start easing into the conversation at hand. So, Catherine Breillat, and once again, I apologize for my Americanization of her name, but it's just going to be too much of a tongue twister, constantly Catherine Breillat and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're going from Maurice Pilat to Catherine Breillat, you know.
Absolutely, that would have to be the new intro to Wrong Reel. But how would you like to unpack the conversation? Because I think for a lot of young moviegoers, they're probably aware of her by reputation. Because I've seen some people say, "Ooh, I'm afraid to even go there." But in the late 90s, when I was really getting into movies, she had this massive career comeback. She had a film called Romance, which put her on. If you were going to specialty cinemas, like art house cinemas, anywhere in New York, LA, Austin, wherever, you were going to see her name. And Romance just took off like a rocket. But it was the next movie, Fat Girl, which was like somebody just lighting a stick of dynamite, throwing it into the culture. Nobody knew how to kind of wrestle with it or discuss it or grapple with it. But for me, it's like, then just experience it. Just watch the movie and just hang on tight and enjoy the ride. But how did you first become aware of her? Because when you and I did our Pilat episodes, we were talking about some movies that were written by Catherine Breillat. It's like, it was an incredibly prodigious career.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably how I first came across her. She was the screenwriter to Police with Gerard Depardieu, directed by Maurice Pilat, and she was his muse for a long time. Like, and she didn't she tried her hand at a lot of stuff, you know. Like she came to Paris in like when she was like 16 years old, and she tried to enroll to become a director. Like she knew from a very early age she wanted to become a director, but they wouldn't let her in. Like they said,
like
only men are allowed.
When would that have been?
Yeah, so I'm trying to see when she was born. She was
born in the late 40s, but
47, I think. So I think it was like 1963 that she moved to Paris, and
Gotcha.
she tried to enroll in the whatever it is, the
born in 48. Yeah, they're probably saying, well, unless you're Agnes Varda, we're not interested.
Yeah, exactly. And they wouldn't let her in, so she tried her hand at She started writing novels, and she had her first novel was published, and it was called A Man for the Asking, and that caused a scandal when they found out that this young girl had written it. And in fact, if it had been released the year she'd written it, she would have been banned from even renting it out of the library or buying it, because it was crazy. But she was like really young, and she tried that. Then she tried her hand at acting. She did a little bit of acting. Her sister was also an actress, and her first movie role was Last Tango in Paris. You know,
Jesus.
so she was kind of exposed to,
and her whole career has basically been her saying to Bertolucci, "Hold my beer," and
yeah,
going up and doing her own thing.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to come back. We're going to come back several times to Last Tango in Paris as we discuss some of these films, you know, because it did have an influence on her in particular, and on some of the films that she made, you know, including some of the cast that she used, you know. But we'll come to that later. But yeah, I mean, for me, yeah, I mean, it was true that to writing, and I'd seen Romance, and I'd seen Fat Girl, and I was aware. I think I'd seen some of A Real Young Girl, but like the problem with her films, they just weren't available. Nowadays with the internet, you know, they are easily findable. Like I was trying to buy DVDs for this podcast to do research, and I could only find two that I wanted to buy. The rest I couldn't find, or if they were available, they were like for a couple of €100 for
Yeah.
one disc. Because they're so rare. There was like there's a box set that was released of her movies. It's just not available, and there was one for sale for hundreds of euros. I just didn't want to.
Yeah, I
It
found
wasn't.
Fat Girl on the Criterion Channel, and it was pristine and perfect.
Yeah,
I think I found Romance at Amazon. I found a couple of these at Amazon, a couple at Apple TV Plus, and then with 36 Fillette, or however you pronounce it, as well
yeah.
as A Real Young Girl, I had to go to more kind of like dark web sources and that sort of thing. But I did get to see them in their entirety, and I've saved copies of both because yeah, I hate the idea of films just being out of circulation for whatever reason. But yeah, I don't think any of her movies ever generated massive box office. They just generated massive conversations and massive controversies and that sort of thing. But she has managed to remain active as a storyteller for decades. And I think if whatever your chosen medium is, whether it's writing novels or making films or whatever, if you have a giant body of work at the end of like a 50-year career, slam dunk, mission accomplished.
Yeah, and I mean, like, because she had started having success in like the early 2000s, the early noughties with Romance and Fat Girl and stuff, that led to her previous, like her first film, A Real Young Girl, didn't get released, and it only got released 24 years later when the success of Romance, it had its first time in the cinema, so she had, and now she's kind of, I wouldn't say moved into the mainstream, but like I read loads of interviews and watched stuff with her, and she talked about her first 10 films was her purging herself of all this Catholic guilt and the shame and sexual shame and all that sort of stuff that she'd experienced as a young girl growing up and as a young filmmaker and stuff. So she was she kind of expunged all that from her system through 10 films, and we're only covering a certain amount of these films,
Yeah, we're covering 6 today, just to give people. If they're totally unfamiliar, you will have 6 movies that are all great kind of gateway drugs or points of entry into her career.
Yeah, and they're all major points for her in her exploration of women's sexuality on film, And
Yeah.
I'm well aware, like, we're two middle-aged guys talking about, this podcast. It comes like shortly after your podcast with Bill about
Naughty
the
90s.
Naughty 90s, which was very much about the male gaze. And I looked at some of the comments on YouTube today of that episode, and there's mention of the male gaze in that, and Catherine Breillat's films were very much about addressing this male gaze and talking about
the female gaze.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where it's like, I am a male and I have a gaze. I look at things. So I'm not going to apologize for looking at things or looking at movies. And if people don't want to hear two middle-aged guys discuss their career, bye. Don't let the doorknob hit you.
That's not right. But Catherine Breillat, her films she made, they weren't just for women. She was making them for. She was also trying to show to the patriarchal society, what the patriarchal society was doing by objectifying women in film, and how there was, how women were made to feel by this male gaze in their films. You know what I mean? So, and we'll come to that when we're talking about, especially when we talk about her, the making of that she done of romance, or not romance, of Fat Girl. She done her making of sexist comedy, and that very much deals with the female gaze or the shaming gaze or whatever you want to call it, So we'll come to that.
What I love about sexist comedy is how they're making a movie where they have a lot of strange, forbidden sexual terrain they're going to explore in the movie, but it's a behind the scenes look at making a movie. And even though that movie is now well over 20 years old, it feels like it could have been made yesterday. I think for anybody talking about intimacy coordinators on set, or like just there are a lot of landmines when it comes to choreographing any sort of sexual content of any kind in your movies. And I just think sexist comedy beautifully explores all that, like the pitfalls of being a female director trying to explore these topics that are incredibly important to her, and just how complex it gets. I mean, making a movie is hard under any circumstances, but when you're dealing with actors who have certain insecurities, or two leads who hate each other, it gets even more complicated. But I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, because sex and comedy is ahead. And also, it's like this whole conversation with the male gaze. I always want to say, like, 20,000 years of art history would be impossible without the male gaze. Whether you're talking about sculptures or Renaissance paintings or today's pornography, the male gaze has led to a lot of beautiful imagery on film, like David Lynch and Alfred Hitchcock and Brian De Palma. Are they part of the male gaze? I don't know. They're men and they have a gaze. So yeah, I think that expression is, I don't even know if that expression is useful in trying to solve whatever problem they're trying to diagnose.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, we'll discuss that. We'll discuss that later, because it definitely has a lot to do with some of the film, especially with like Anatomy of Hell. It's a very important film in terms of that gaze, but we'll talk about that. But getting back to her, like as I said,
Gaze as opposed to GAYS, which we'll have to specify when discussing Anatomy of Hell.
Well, there's also an issue with that to be talked about as well, because that was kind of controversial too, in some quarters, But anyway,
yeah, I mean, it's like every scene, every line of dialogue, every frame of film in all these is incredibly controversial. So much so, I had a really hard time finding clips that I can include in the conversation, because I'm like, is YouTube just going to completely freak out? But I did manage to find anywhere from like 10 to 13-second clips from trailers in the movies that can kind of guide the conversation. So let me tee things off with A Real Young Girl, because this fucking song in this movie, it's been stuck in my head for like a month. And now it's going to be stuck in everybody else's head. So here we go. All right, so A Real Young Girl, it did not get seen for like 25 years, basically, after it got made. How did it get kind of lost to the annals of history, and then how did it get rediscovered, and why was it buried at the time of its release?
Okay, well, so like, first of all, like Catherine Breillat, so she's always trying to distance her, because she's been, a lot of times she's just been lumped in as a porn director or a smut auteur, she's at various times.
The better company to mention her with is like Alan Clark, Lars von Trier, Michel Haneke, and Gaspar Noé. Like, that is the collection of controversial filmmakers that I feel like she belongs in their company.
And in fact, they probably wouldn't have careers without her, in terms of what she's done with cinema. But like, she was called like an author of porn, an art porn provocateur, or the queen of French cinema, But because of that, like, she was always trying to distance herself from porn, that her films weren't quite the same, But ironically, it's because of porn that she got her start in cinema, because in 1974, France abolished all its censorship laws, because up until that time, they'd really, like the Catholic Church, just like in Ireland, had a tight hold on everything, including the film industry. And so in 1974, they abolished all the censorship laws. And from like 75 to 76, over or almost half of French cinema was given over to making porn, and so she had, as I said, she tried to get into cinema school, couldn't do it, and then she was given a chance by this producer, a porn producer, who thought, oh, I get a woman to make a porn movie or a soft porn movie, because I think around the same time Emmanuel came out, and that was like a massive sensation, huge box office hit, and they thought, oh, I get a woman to make a soft porn film and I'll make a mint, so he sent her off with like a three-man crew from the porn industry, which kind of tells from when you see the film itself, because it's not like done with the best cinematographer or any of that stuff. And she was only allowed to do,
her later films are very beautiful to look at. Her first film, A Real Young Girl, is a little raw.
Yeah, I mean, it was like she had only like a three-man crew, and she was only allowed to do one shot per setup. She wasn't allowed to do more than one take. And so that can kind of be tell in some of it, but in a lot, it's not, because it's quite a surreal film, anyway. But the thing about the film was, with all these porn films that came out, the French population started giving out, the Catholic establishment started giving out, even though the censorship laws have been banned. And so as a kind of censorship, what they did was they slapped on a really high tax on porn films, and they gave them this X rating, which anything with an X rating had to pay high distribution taxes and all that sort of stuff. And so it became not so lucrative for filmmakers, for producers of porn, and this will happen. Like, she just completed her movie, come back to it would just get edited, getting it ready to go out, and then it was shelved. And the producer that had financed her movie, his production company went under, and her film remained in kind of judicial limbo for a long time, and now she would like to say,
the film is based on her fourth novel called Les Ooh, Soupirail. I'll let you pronounce that since you speak
I, I,
more
I,
French
I
than
can't even
I.
see it. Yeah, no, I can't even see
All I
it.
can pronounce is green beans, and that's where my knowledge of French ends.
Yeah, but yeah, no, and nearly all her film, like she's one of these filmmakers. Like I think she's probably a screenwriter and filmmaker who writes novels of her films. Either sometimes she writes the novel first, then the screenplay, and then makes the film, or else she makes writes the screenplay, makes the film, and then does the novelization. And it was something that she's always done, like for most of her films. But yes, like when a real young girl, it got shelved. It did internationally. Then it was kind of censored censored in a lot of countries and not screened anywhere, and so it was just shelved. And it never until her success with Romance.
And to
But
be fair, 50 years later, or nearly 50 years later after it was made, it's still pretty goddamn shocking. And it's a very simple, at least a deceptively simple premise where basically a girl comes home from school to spend time with her family, and she's just, I guess, like, she's a 20-year-old actress, but I think the character's 14,
14,
and
yeah.
all the guys around her, of course, are staring at her up and down, blah, blah, blah. But it's just about her adventures and or misadventures, just flirting with men, having her first interactions with men. It's basically almost the exact same premise as her next film, 36 Fillette or
Yeah,
Fillette.
I mean, she's almost been remaking, like, for her first three films, her first, or not the first three that we're going to talk about, they're almost the same
Yeah.
film, just in different
And a lot
ways.
of filmmakers do that, where they just kind of keep remaking the same movie over and over and over again. And sometimes they do it better than others. But I almost feel like she had to make a couple different versions of it first so she could get to Fat Girl, where this premise gets perfected to, like, or kind of like carved down to like a perfect diamond. But if you were to make the case for why people should watch A Real Young Girl, apart from that song, which you will hear for half the movie because she just carries it around wherever she goes, what is the
Well,
hook? What is the bait
I
to
mean,
lure people to
well,
see it?
well, first of all, it's got many autobiographical elements to it, of Catherine Breillat's life. It's set in 1963, and it's dated by the perform. And it's funny here, related to that film, the Sergio Corbucci one that I just showed you. The star of that Sergio Corbucci film is the French actor singer Johnny Hallyday. And you remember in The Real Young Girl, the black and white singer, he's singing "I'm Living on a Volcano." That's Johnny Hallyday. So it's set in 1963, and Catherine Breillat was 14 at the same in 1963. So it's kind of based on her. She shot the film without sound, so she shot the film without sound. And when she was doing the dubbing, she got her own mother to do the voice of the mother, and she got her sister to do the voice of the girl.
Gotcha.
And it's set in the area where she grew up in France and all that sort of stuff. So it's got a lot of autobiographical elements. Likewise, when the girl's in school, she's got the teacher comes and stops her from masturbating. And Catherine Breillat, her and her sister were sent off to boarding school with nuns, and the same thing. And when young girls started menstruating, started becoming young, and the nuns shamed them, you know what I mean? And they separate the girls from the ones who were having their period. They'd separate them from the other girls, and they called them sluts and all kinds of stuff like this. And it was a really this had a
So
big
how many
impression on Catherine Breillat.
flashbacks of your own Irish Catholic upbringing did you experience while watching these movies?
Yeah, well, no, okay. I mean, I went to a Christian Brothers school. Now it's different, but I mean, I don't know if you've seen the Magdalena Sisters, that Irish film about the girls who were pregnant back in the 50s and 60s in Ireland, and they were sent to this Magdalene laundries with the nuns while they had their babies, and they were really mistreated. That's the kind of what she talks about her boarding school was like, really strict, and they were punished for exploring their own body. They were made to feel shame. I think Catherine Breillat talked about she was 9 when she had her first period, and by 12 she had full breasts, and so she was made, but not just by the nuns, but by her parents, because in France at this time there was no pill, you know what I mean? Abortion was illegal, and if a girl got pregnant, it brought such shame, because each village had their, like, even where I live now, tiny little village, but a massive big Catholic church. Even though there's no priest there anymore, they haven't got enough priests for all these churches anymore. But at the time, these church, and if they found out you were pregnant out of wedlock, the shame on the family was enormous.
Same thing holds true in a lot of southern towns. If you have small towns throughout like North Carolina and South Carolina, where you'll drive through and you're like, this town might have 1,000 people, 2,000 people, but it's got 30 churches. Are there
Yeah.
enough people to fill all these churches? But people just like having like their own parish.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And these churches nowadays they don't even have priests to ring the bells. So they've got like an MP3 player and a speaker that plays the sound of bells. So if you live near a church, you got this speakers playing church bell sounds. But like like in Ireland, there isn't enough priests for all the churches anymore. You know what I mean? And that's just the way it is. But at the time when she was growing up, it was a big shame on the family, and so the parents would like lock their daughters away, keep them under lock and key, and just tried to get them married young before they got pregnant. And and the idea, and so this has played into Catherine Breillat's films, the shame that was instilled in them, the shame of their bodies, the shame of them. Temptation to touch themselves, to masturbate, to explore, all that sort of stuff.
I mean, she gets home to visit her family, and first conversation, they sit down there at the dinner table, and her parents are already giving her shit, and she starts masturbating under the table, and she doesn't see her parents in a month. Like, maybe wait 5 minutes until you go upstairs. But what I love about this movie is that this is going to sound like a generalization, but people need to keep in mind that teenage girls can experience like 20 different emotions at the same time with equal intensity, even if there are contradictory impulses or emotions. And I feel like when you're watching this movie, what I love is how it's very difficult to kind of try to pin it down or make any sweeping like conclusions based on this film. It's a film about exploration and about having experiences. And some of her experiences are just like, riding up to a construction site and lifting up her skirt just to see what's going to happen. Some people are going to say, oh, how gross. That's the male gaze. But it's like, yeah, but she rode up and she's flirting with them. I mean, it's a movie where I don't think it's easy to have like a 2-word synopsis as to what this film signifies. And that's what I love about watching her movies, is that they're so messy and so complicated and so upsetting in so many ways. You never feel like you're on firm footing in terms of your emotional reaction to a particular scene.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and there's also like, there's a nod to kind of Lolita when she's lying on the sunbathing in the garden and she's playing that song on the radio, like I Am a Little Girl, and it's kind of catchy melody similar to the song that Lolita's listening to in Kubrick's film, So it's kind of,
I love that tune.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So so she's kind of saying it herself in a way, like this is what's going on. But and this girl, like, she's kind of, she's all this shame and she's made to feel dirty and stuff like that. Her mother calls her a pute, you know what I mean?
Her mother's a organ in this. Her mother is fucking horrible in this.
Yeah, but then you have to also kind of understand where the woman was coming from in that time. Like in the early 60s in France, a married woman couldn't get a job, couldn't open a bank account, couldn't sell her own property without the permission of her husband. You know what I mean? And the idea of trying to, deal with a young girl who's like not promiscuous, but just going through puberty and
getting curious.
Getting interested in boys.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, speaking of being curious, there's a scene I'm going to. This is the aftermath after a guy. Well, anyway, I don't want to get too descriptive, but let's just say he has been gratifying himself, whereupon he is wiping off his hand on her clothes, and then she has this legendary line.
Je regardais son vide, agonisant comme un poisson mort.
And I like how we're seeing the whole movie from her point of view. Once again, if you want to talk about like the female gaze or the female point of view, well, yeah, we have a female writer, female director, female lead. Like we get to walk a mile in her shoes for 90 minutes through all these crazy experiences. And even if the movie does feel at times kind of sloppy or unprofessional, there's something that makes it like grittily authentic and raw and pure because it's shot in such like a cinema verite or kind of like almost like documentary style. It really puts you right in the experiences that she's having. And so even if I was repulsed by like the earthworm scene, I could not pull my eyes away from the screen. And the earthworm scene, this is the only thing I'll like kind of warn people in advance. If you're going to watch this movie, there is a scene that is so foul and so grotesque that I hesitate to even put it into words, but essentially he is trying to teaser with a live earthworm. It doesn't quite work out, and so he just rips it into a million pieces and sprinkles it all over her naked body. And it is one of the grossest things that I've ever seen.
Yeah, but these are all fantasies that she's having. They're not like actually happening to her. So every time
we still see it. Like they still capture it in camera.
But we still see it. But it's also, I mean, like, look, there's a lot that you can kind of read into some of these scenes, and you know, a lot of metaphor in these scenes. You know, and like, so like you can look at the earthworm as being like you know, a metaphor for how the girl fears the male sex organ, you know what I mean? And that it's ugly and repulsive to her and all that kind of thing, you know.
And sometimes they are.
Yeah, as we see in this film, you know what I mean? So
yeah, there's nothing less attractive than a shriveled up, flaccid, uncensored penis where it's like the skin looks like a wizard's hood. It's like, come on, like at least like let's tighten up our game here.
Yeah. No, and absolutely. And there's another point to make, you know, like the opening credits of this film, they're like written on a diary. The opening credits are written on a diary, and that same diary is the diary that the girl writes into, you know. So when you see her write her diary with the red ink, her communion pen, and she's writing like this, which looks like kind of menstrual blood or whatever. So it's kind of inferred in a way that this is Catherine Breillat's diary, you know.
It feels very autobiographical. All of her films that we're discussing today seem to have autobiographical elements that are sprinkled in there, especially Fat Girl, where she basically had to like apologize to her sister after making it. But that's what makes these movies irresistible. They're not just cooking up some strange fantasies, but this film in particular, it has so many, maybe because they had no money for special effects, because everything is almost like a John Waters movie where they're capturing everything in camera. It just makes it so much more gruesome because in addition to all of her fantasies, we're getting just a lot of like casual violence. Like when she's watching a rooster, just like fucking up a mouse and just like eating it alive.
Yeah.
Or a chicken slowly. Yeah, being slowly beheaded. Like the mother, it's not like she just chops it off with an axe. It's like she's slowly beheading it and bleeding.
No, she's bleeding it. She's draining the blood, so she wants to use the blood to make sausage or something.
But it's tough to watch for people who prefer not to know how the sausage is made. Then this movie forces you to watch how the sausage is made. But then we also have like the flip side of shit that's just hilarious, like when she's crawling around with quite literally a giant feather sticking out of her posterior. It's like cluck cluck, I'm a chicken too, and he grabs her with his teeth and
he cooks the feather out. It's kind of like, again, it's like a metaphor for taking her virginity, like all these things. Like, so she sees her mother with the chicken and she runs the guts over her hands, and then it kind of, those secretions kind of remind her of what she thinks maybe might be involved in sex and all this. So she kind of then has a fantasy about what that might be, you know. And it's all, everything that we see that's disgusting and horrible is her fantasy about what it's going to be like when she eventually has sex or whatever, you know what I mean? So yeah, it doesn't hold back, you know. So if you're nervous about these sort of things, or if you're squeamish, maybe avoid this film. You know?
Here's my attitude: if you're going to make a movie about like a coming of age story, where you're not going to be honest about just all the conflicting emotions and confusion that nearly every single teenager will experience. I mean, being a teenager is quite a roller coaster when it comes to like exploring your horizons and expanding your boundaries and all that kind of stuff. But I think if you're going to do a coming of age movie and you're not going to have an unflinching approach to teenage sexuality, it's almost like when people make an action movie that's PG-13, that like where you see people shooting machine guns at each other and they just kind of curl up and fall down, but there's no blood. It's dishonest. Like when you watch a PG-13 action movie, I feel like you're almost doing a disservice to the idea of like what guns actually do to people. Like, give me the full fucking experience. Give me the Paul Verhoeven squibs exploding in all directions and that sort of thing. And I think the same thing holds true with whether you're talking about teen sex comedies or coming of age dramas. You got to be honest about just how preoccupied with sex teenagers are.
Yeah, no, and you can forgive that it's not made in a really professional style because they wouldn't let her into film school. You know what I mean? So she made that without any experience at all. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it, and it is, you know, it's like I said, it's kind of surreal. It could be like Brunel or something like that. It's kind of it's really surreal moments and stuff. But and the actress is great. You know, she's like, you know, she's pleasant on the eye, as it were.
She's very, very pretty actress. Her name is Charlotte Alexandra.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So it's a very interesting, and it's hard to find. So like, not many people will be able to find it probably.
The easiest one, I always tell people where to find it. There's a website called Effed Up Movies, spelled EFFED, but effedupmovies.com, where they post a lot of these hard to find movies in full. I don't know if it's legal or not, but that is where I found A Real Young Girl. And he even has a download option on his site.
All
So
right.
that's where I'm going to recommend people go if they're curious about the debut feature film by Catherine Breillat. I think it's not her best movie. Anywhere, it's not anywhere close.
Oh no,
but it's essential viewing because you don't get to 36 VA and you don't get to Fat Girl without walking through or going through A Real Young Girl first.
Absolutely, yes, for sure.
Well, speaking of 36 VA, if I'm even saying that correctly, I keep looking up 36 VA. Basically, it's like a tongue-in-cheek reference to a young girl developing breasts and having to wear a bra of a particular size.
She's bursting out of her size, yes.
Yeah,
but I mean,
so that's what the title means. But here is the closing title card for the film from 36 VA. And we've already basically described the scenario or the plot from the previous film, but you have the addition of a brother who she despises,
yes,
fights with like crazy, and we have a much older man who is trying unsuccessfully to lure her into doing certain sexual deeds with him. And it seems like 95% of this movie, it's a very short film, is just her basically driving him into a frenzy of sexual denial, constantly kind of teasing that something might happen and kind of coming by and having all these long conversations that teenagers love to have. And he's just losing his mind and pulling his hair out. And I actually thought this movie was remarkable. It had been on my to-do list for many, many decades. I'd seen the VHS cassette on the racks a million times, finally hunted it down. And this movie is fantastic.
Yeah. And like first of all, like all her films, they're nice length. They're all around 90 minutes or shorter. You know what I mean? So you're not kind of in that world for too long. You know, when you just show that clip at the end, at that last clip, when you see her at the end, you know, I really liked her at that point. But when you first see her in the film, you just want like, shut the fuck up, girl. You know, she comes in like a bloody bull in a china shop. You know what I mean? And her parents like she let her go out to a disco as long as she's been chaperoned by her brother, who's slightly older. He's still underage himself.
He has the emotional maturity of an 8-year-old, but he at least is older in years.
And one important point is the actress playing Lily in this film. She was only she was 15 when she was cast. I think she was 14. Sorry, she was 14 when she was cast. And she had just turned 15 a few days before the shoot, you know.
I think it's you're 1 year off. She turned
15. Yes,
3 days before they started the shooting the movie.
Yeah.
But Catherine Breillat, she said it was like she got lucky because she never asked her age or her birthday during the interview, and they could have shot none of the scenes in the film unless she was 16 years old, which still seems, when I think back to how inexperienced and young and naive I was at 16. Holy cow. I was a very sheltered little boy in a lot of ways, but never in a million years would I've guessed this actress is 16. She is so ready and so game.
Yeah, and actually, because in France the age of consent is 15, but yes, it was the fact that she just turned 16 that if she hadn't have been 16 when they shot it, they wouldn't have been able to show it in festivals around the world or get it screened around the world because it would have been problems in many territories, you know.
And any nudity in this movie, it's very mild, it's very partial, it's kind of like it suggests. But if people are looking for strange kicks, this is not the movie.
No. But yes, no, but like you very quickly won't warm to this girl's character. Like, so she goes out with her brother, and they're hitching, they're fighting all the way, and they hitch to get to the local town. It's in Biarritz. They're in a campsite near Biarritz, and this car pulls up, and you don't know it, but you become aware that she's already had some sort of relationship with this man before, that she's met him before at some point. This older man, this older aging playboy type, you know, and. In fact, the guy, I think it was, let me see, yes, the actor or the character of this aging playboy, he was based on two different people, you know. His name is Maurice. So he was based on Maurice Pilat, who Breillat had been his muse, as I said earlier, and she had worked on some of his films as an advisor or as a kind of just helping out. And one film which we didn't actually do, or A Nous Sommes More, which was Sandrine Bonnard's debut. During that, she was only, I think, 16 when she was making it, and Maurice Pilat fell in love with her, you know, and became enamored by this young actress. And Catherine Breillat was observing, and she thought, like, how sad to see this master director who's at the end of his years, slobbering all over this young girl who's at the start of her career, you know. And this kind of line she kind of uses in the film about the
men always foolishly think that young women will have like life-giving properties, and it's the exact opposite. If you are an aging man and you want to hang with young girls, between the talking, the incessant talking and the dancing and the drinking, they will put you in an early grave. So yeah, old men, let the young fellas have a turn with the young girls, and men focus on more age appropriate, because yeah, you can thank me later when you're not in the hospital dying from exhaustion.
Yeah, and the other model for the character was Marlon Brando's character from Last Tango in Paris, you know. And if you remember Last Tango in Paris, his character Paul and Maria Schneider's character, they look the same as this older playboy and the young girl, because he towers above her. She's only quite short in 36 Fillette, and likewise in the Last Tango in Paris. So they were the models that she used for this character. But she goes out and they fight. He makes a date, says, come to the bar later on, and she goes off in a huff, and she runs into this musician guy who's just signing autographs, you know. And this guy, what's his name again?
Jean-Pierre Léaud.
Yeah, I mean, he was actually in Last Tango in Paris. He played the director who was the soon-to-be husband of Maria Schneider's character.
A true icon of French cinema. I mean, from the 400 Blows to Day for Night. I mean, Jean-Pierre Léaud has been in a million movies, but I actually have a little clip here of the two of them interacting, because I think that might be the best scene.
It's a great scene, yeah.
Et votre mère, elle est affolée par la fille qu'elle a ou pas?
Alors elle se tend les mains. Ce temps-ci, elle est toujours à l'église.
Et votre père?
Alors lui, c'est le foot. Pourvu qu'il y ait un ballon en corner dans n'importe quel patelin de France, nous, on l'intéresse vraiment pas. Il en a rien à foutre de nous.
And first and foremost, fuck yeah, getting Jean-Pierre Léaud to be in your movie is always a good idea. I mean, in the 60s and 70s, he racked up an incredible filmography and continued to do great stuff all the way through, like Irma Vep in the 90s and that sort of thing. But it was so cool seeing an incredibly experienced actor who at one time was in the exact same position as this young actress when he was auditioning for the 400 Blows. And it almost is like a strange mirror. We're seeing like the teenage girl version of himself embarking upon a career the same way he did for 400 Blows.
Yeah,
decades prior.
This is something like, because like Catherine Breillat, she loved cinema, you know, so there's nods in a lot of her films, like what we were just talking about Lolita earlier, and this scene between him and her, between what's his name, Golovin and Lily, is the same sort of scene that he played when he was a young boy, a 14-year-old boy, playing Antoine in 400 Blows, you know. And it's more or less, it's almost like him talking to himself, because in that scene where I think he's in the detention home for the young boys or whatever, he's having a talk with a psychiatrist. He's talking about more or less the same things, you know, how he's done.
In that scene, he's talking I can't even speak. He's talking to Truffaut off camera, who's playing the role of the detention officer, which is why that scene plays additionally well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's a really great scene, and yeah, no, it works really well. And for this girl, like, here's a man who understands her and listens to her, and it was also something that Breillat experienced, because she had met Roberta Rossellini, and when she was saying she wanted to be a filmmaker, and Rossellini sat down with her and they were talking, and he, just like Golvin in this scene, he said, even though she hadn't written it, he's like, he had faith in his own self when he was going to be a director, so he could believe that this young girl would be what she wants to be, you know. And so Rossellini had encouraged Breillat and said, yes, of course, you're going to be a director. And what are you going to bring to it? She's going to bring, I'm going to bring the shaming gaze, she said to Rossellini, you know. So in this scene, she's kind of almost having a conversation with Truffaut and Rossellini, you know. It's a great scene, and it is probably the best scene in the film.
Yeah, and also because she spends 99% of the movie being pursued by guys who are wildly inappropriate in age, it's nice to have a scene in contrast where a guy's just asking her questions about her family, about school, about what she wants to do in life, and it feels very genuine and sincere coming from Jean-Pierre Léaud when he's asking her all these questions, and she just lights up. And you're like, wow. So it's not just all day, every day. It's not just her screaming and fighting with her brother, she has different qualities. And I think that's when the movie really starts to get cooking with grease.
Yeah, and that's what she's looking for. Like, so when she meets the playboy guy, she wants more than just sex. You know, she doesn't want to just be laid and that's it. She wants to have a conversation. She wants to talk, and he's like, he doesn't want to talk. He said, "Oh yeah, let's go to my room and talk." But once he gets there, he doesn't want to talk. You know what I mean? He wants to get a leg over. You know, and she's like resistant to all this. So yeah, no, it's really important in the context.
And very cleverly resisting. It's like, I mean, if you want to talk about, there's a special form of torture on this planet for older men who try to pursue younger women. It's all these scenes where he's just like, you know, pawing at her, and she's just like, no. We're going to talk till dawn, and then you're going to drive me home, and we're going to go look for my annoying brother. And that's all that's going to happen. And he just takes it. And he has to just keep enduring this form of tease and denial. This movie could have just been called Tease and Denial, but it absolutely works. And then finally, she eventually does it. Spoiler, gets to do the dirty deed with somebody who is much more closer to her age, very physically awkward, very gangly, not even particularly attractive. But the whole movie is about her trying to figure out when, where, and how can she lose her virginity in a way where it feels meaningful.
Yeah, and it also has a lot of similarities to, you know, the Elia Kazan film Baby Doll.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
You know, with the Carol Baker and Eli Wallach, you know, it's that sort of same sort of thing. The young girl being chased by this old seducer type of thing. So there's quite a few nods to various different types of films in it, like what we're talking about there. You know, so like 400 Blows and for this for Baby Doll. So yeah, no, I enjoyed it. It's worth checking it out. You know, and again, it might be a little bit more difficult to find. So yes, effedupfilms.com.
This was actually the hardest one for me to find. I can't remember if this was on Effed Up Films or not. It might have been, but if you just look up 36, I don't even know how to pronounce Fillette.
Yeah.
Fillette. There are a few sites that are even kind of like porn adjacent, where it'll be posted in its entirety, because there is a little bit of like hinted at nudity and that sort of thing. But yeah, well worth seeing. I think as far as coming of age movies go, as far as teenagers on the cusp of adulthood, it's definitely one of the best I've seen in a long time. And I think easily one of the standout films in our overall filmography. But we're going to flash forward and skip one of her features and dive into what might be, maybe not might, I mean, it's easily one of the most controversial films. Actually, no, we got romance first. So romance is next on our to-do list.
Because I thought, because Fat Girl is kind of the third film in her unofficial Virgin trilogy.
I was just going in chronological order, but if you want to do Fat Girl, because romance also explores some similar things. The girl's a little older, but it's still similar terrain. But if you want to jump romance to get Fat Girl and then go back to romance,
I just think because the three films, those three films make up her Virgin trilogy, and in Fat Girl, the protagonist is kind of split into two. You know what I mean? So it's up to you. I don't mind.
Lay it on me. We're gonna flash forward to 2001. How do you pronounce the title of the film Fat Girl in French? Because it's got a very different name in France.
Ma sœur. So it's my sister. You know.
Gotcha. Well, the movie I mentioned before that I said we're also leapfrogging over, which I do want to see at some point, but I've not seen it yet. That would be her 19. Hang on, I'm looking at her screenwriting credits, not her directing credits. 1 sec. There's a film that she made called. What's the one from 1991? I'm only seeing the French title. Hang on, I've got it listed on my Dirty Like an Angel. That is one of her movies that I do want to hunt down that I've not seen from 1991. Have you heard anything good or bad about Dirty Like an Angel?
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it either. And I again, like I was doing some reading on her. Like I was doing a bit of studying, and so it broke her films up into different sections, and I kind of skipped it. I'd done the first section, which is the three Virgin films, and then the third section, which is the sort of sadomasochism section, which is to do with romance.
Gotcha. This one sounds like a Marlise Pilote film in a lot of ways, where you have an aging cop in his 50s who spends a lot of time with prostitutes, and I'm watching the trailer. The trailer's playing on IMDb as we speak. It looks very exciting. I'm almost feeling like I might have slipped up by not watching it.
I mean, because we kind of picked a sort of a grouping of films. We didn't really kind of put too much thought into it. We just thought, okay, these ones, and we kind of missed a lot of films. You know what I mean? So yes, I mean.
Well, we'll come back to Catherine Breillat Part 2 at a later date, but for now, we're gonna press pause on romance. We'll talk about that after the break. Let's unpack Fat Girl, which for me is her best movie that I've seen. I love this movie. I saw it in the theater when it came out. I actually saw Romance in the theater as well, but I was floored by this, and I've basically held on to and been nurturing a crush for Roxanne Mesquita for the last 25 years as a result. She is so goddamn angelic and beautiful in this, and still doing things like TV shows with Greg Araki. I mean, she's got a full-blown filmography at this point and is still active and so on and so forth. But give the premise. What is the story of Fat Girl?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's the holiday situation. The girls are on holiday. This time it's two virgins. It's like a 12-year-old and again a 14-year-old, you know, because I think for Breillat, the age of 14 was this very important year,
transformative year, without a doubt. Yeah,
you know, but it's almost like the two girls are almost like different kind of facets of the Alice character from The Really Young Girl and Lily from 36 Fillette, you know. So yes, and it's two girls, and again, like similar to Lily, what's her name? Roxanne's character, Elena, is allowed to go out only if she takes her younger sister with her, as a to kind of put off the boys, you know. But they go out and they straight away find this young kind of again, young Lotario who's Italian, and he's straight away in on trying to get into Elena's knickers, more or less, you know. So they kind of make it
30 whole seconds to come up with his whole plan. Well, here's a little taste from the trailer for Fat Girl, just to let you know who the characters are involved in this lurid drama. You'd be amazed at how hard it was to find 11 seconds without, like, you know, pubic hair like prominently displayed in the frame. But I found my 11 seconds. Oh, who's dog? Get him in the frame.
So just no, she wants to go out. So just give me a second. Sorry, this is live TV, folks. You know. Okay,
that is amazing. Well, while he's gone, I will provide the biographical details for Fat Girl. So written and directed by
I warned you that we may be interrupted, you know. So.
Oh yeah, no worries. I love dogs. Can basically do no wrong in my eyes, and even if they shit on the sidewalk in New York, it's the owners who are at fault for not cleaning it up and so on and so forth. So yeah, this is a dog friendly podcast.
Yeah, no, that's good. But
right,
yes,
so back to Fat Girl. So you got family on vacation, teenage Italian dude swoops in, basically reinforcing every negative stereotype about young Italian men, and then what goes down?
But yeah, and again, you have the parents who are really kind of, restricting the girls, afraid of the girl like having sex or getting pregnant, and the characters are very different. Like the two girls are very different. Like the older girl, Elena, she's very much like her mother. Like what she wants is she wants to get married. She's a conformist. The sister calls her conformist. She wants to be like her mother. She wants to get married. She doesn't want to put out. She doesn't want to have sex without commitment, marriage, whatever like that. You know. But again, this thing like about girls, Catholic girls growing up, they'll do a lot of things, but they won't have sex, intercourse. You know, they'll allow oral sex or anal sex, but they won't allow the full blown normal sex. You know, and sort of. So this girl is kind of like that.
Which
whereas her sister
bewilders me, because anal sex is so much more
worse.
Invasive in a lot of ways, but it doesn't count for whatever reason.
Yeah, and the younger girl, she's much more like pessimistic, and she's much more aware of that the boy's just looking to get the leg over, that his intentions aren't pure, you know. And she's her sister's really naive, you know. But the younger girl, who's the fat girl in the story in the title, you know, she gets like abuse from her family, from her parents for being fat. She's always been shouted at. When the mother's angry at the older girl, she ends up hitting the younger girl, you know. And she's always kind of, but she's kind of wiser in a way, and she observes everything. And so the first night, the girl makes a date, and like the two of them are in bed in their holiday home, and then the young girl sees her older sister waking up and putting on lipstick and saying, "What's going on? Are you going out?" "No, go back to sleep." And oh, you've made this guy's coming over, you know. And the older girl kind of resents her sister because her sister is in her space all. She hasn't got her own space and she can't have privacy with this guy. So she's, you know, go sleep. And so there's this resentment there all the time. And we're also made aware that they used to get on. And this is also kind of autobiographical from Breilat's perspective, because her and her sister were very close. They were only like not even a year apart growing up. And then once her sister, who was slightly older, got her first boyfriend, that sister bond was broken, you know. And this is the thing that happens with sisters. I don't know, I don't have I'm not a sister, I don't have a sister.
I have a lot of sisters, and let's just say their relationships are complicated. They love each other and they hate each other in equal measure, but it's always fun to be around when they're interacting.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is what happened. And the guy comes in and he's trying his hand at everything. You know, he's just trying to, and he's trying to convince her, like, yes, I care more about you than the other girls didn't matter, and all this kind of stuff. And
he's feeding her every single lame kind of half-hearted lie every guy has ever fed to any girl in his teens, trying to get it on and talking about, like, you know, oh, this is a declaration of love and blah, blah, blah. And, like, you know, it's like their brief window of true love, it lasts for about a day, and then they're fighting and crying, and all the manipulation gets in, and it's just so goddamn funny how, you know, the more things change, the more things stay the same. And yeah, and I guess long story short is, teenage guys will say anything if they think it might lead to, you know, what they're hunting for. And this guy, you know, to his credit, he plays that type to a T. But I think what makes this movie so, I guess, alluring to me is that just Roxanne Mesquita is that perfect age where she's not a girl, she's not a woman, she's in that strange ambiguous area in between. You can tell she's on the cusp of becoming a 10 out of 10 supermodel, total knockout, but she still has the emotional maturity of a girl, and she's easily manipulated with, like, you know, an engagement ring, which he steals from his mom without permission and that sort of thing. But then we get some truly revealing sexual antics where, I guess because of the way it was shot, and she felt a little unsatisfied with how she did it. It actually leads to the premise of the entire next movie in her filmography, sexist comedy. But how can we unpack what happens toward the end of Fat Girl? Because I feel like the whole movie would have been great if it had just stayed focused on the sisters and the parents shock and horror when they find out that, like, you know, all sorts of libidinous activities been happening underneath the roof, unaware to them. But then in the last, like, 10 or 15 minutes, the movie goes in a different direction, which I think makes the movie all the more shocking and horrifying and memorable. But I think a lot of people, they wanted to leave the theater when the ending of the movie came around. Yeah.
Well, first of all, for anybody who doesn't want to know what happens at the end, you know, skip it now. Spoiler alert, because it's worth seeing the film before you hear the end. You need to watch the film. And
flash forward 5 minutes in this video, because I don't want to ruin the shocking part of what happens.
You're going to put little bookmarks to know when we're finished talking about this. Is in the film in your
I'll put time codes down there, so if people want to just skip ahead to our conversation of romance,
absolutely enough. So the film changes. The girls or the boy's mother comes and says, "I want my ring back," and stuff like that, because the girl eventually gives in, you know. Elaine eventually gives in with the promise of marriage. You know what I mean? Like, that's enough for her Catholic sensibilities to say, okay, I can put out now, you know. And then so the father's already bailed on the mother anyway. He's gone back to his job. So they bundle into the car, and it's a long driving scene back. You know, it's like this endless drive, and it's done very well. You know, it's like,
the mother's so pissed off, and she's blasting music, and the little girl in the back's like, please, like, stop. And the mother's like, I need this to stay awake. But anyway, with all love and affection in the world, as I say this, but, like, just seeing these three girls just, like, seething in anger while they're driving, and, like, the tears and the vindictive attitudes, and just the tension between the three. If you have a dark sense of humor, you will laugh like hell, because everybody's been in a situation like, oh my God, I got to spend the next 6 hours with these three girls. Hate each other. The emotions are running high.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, they stop at a rest stop, they eat, and then they drive some more, and the mother just gets tired, and she decides to pull over at a rest stop, and just pulls over the side of the road and rolls back her chair and goes to sleep. And of course, this is where the movie takes a a left turn more or less, because suddenly the windscreen is smashed in, and this madman jumps in and hits the Alina character, the older sister, in the head with an axe, and then proceeds to strangle the mother, while Anais is in the back seat watching it all going on, and she gets out of the car and then is chased into the woods by this guy, who then proceeds to rape her. Now, this caused all sorts of consternation, and like, it's funny, like this, the release in the cinemas didn't get censored, but when it came to releasing it on video or DVD, I think it was video at the time, or DVD, that's when there was all these calls to have it censored, because they were afraid of pedophiles using this scene to kind of groom young people to say, look, it's okay to be raped, because it appears in the rape scene that the girl, at first she's resisting, but then she kind of puts her arm around the rapist and kind of welcomes him and looks into his eyes and stuff. But again,
and she has that ambiguous final line to the cops about how it didn't go down the way they described it. And earlier in the movie, she says when she loses her virginity, unlike her older sister, who wants it to be like, like she wants like a church choir and flowers and she wants all the ceremonial stuff to go along with it. The younger sister's like, no, I just want it to happen with somebody I've never even heard of, that I'll never see it again, just to get it out of the way. But she's very dismissive about the I guess the fetishization of the first time.
Yeah, and like in interviews, like Breillat had to talk about this a lot, because it was obviously a big topic, and like for her, the idea of that when the girl says I wasn't raped, what she means is her mind wasn't raped, because she never expected a really nice time to begin with, because she seen what her sister went through. So the idea, like, she wasn't raped mentally or anything like that, her mind, so she wasn't disappointed in the act, because she knew it was going to be horrible anyway, and best to get it over. And in fact, she sings this song throughout the film about this being attacked by a werewolf in the woods, you know what I mean? And it's kind of plays back to this idea, but it caused a lot of controversy and stuff. But yeah, it's quite powerful, and she's
and the way it's shot is incredibly specific. Catherine Breillat was well aware of the fact that she was tap dancing across a field of landmines. So she's like, how do I stage this scene to get what I want? And so when it came to the choreography and the camera movements and the placement and that sort of thing, I mean, that you would have thought they were like planning like the disarming of a bomb beneath like the Vatican or something like that. Like, it was done with incredible deliberation. Like, I think sometimes people make the mistake of assuming Catherine Breillat just likes to shock people for the sake of being provocative, but doesn't really think about it. And what you can tell from her interviews, anytime she's exploring these kind of dangerous moments in the movie where everything could go wrong so quickly for the actors or for the crew or just for the final product, she plans them exceedingly careful, which I think is precisely what you have to do. Even Paul Verhoeven's talked about that with some movies like Basic Instinct. You have to choreograph these scenes like you would like a fight scene, where you don't leave anything to chance, and you'll have a much better final product.
Yeah, and Catherine Breillat also said that when she cast the girl who plays Anais, she was flat-chested, and she hadn't went through puberty, and then she had a growth spurt in this time between casting and the actual filming. So when they were filming the rape scene, she'd already developed breasts, and Catherine Breillat said if she had been flat-chested, it wouldn't have been a problem, but the fact that she had just started to grow breast, it was a big issue for everybody, And
I love how she's like, oh, if you're raping like an 11-year-old, no problem, but if it's a 13-year-old, it's like, no, it's still going to be shocking.
Yeah, but she's talking about how ridiculous it is about women's bodies, how the perception of just because a young teenager who's starting to develop breasts is more shocking than a young girl without breasts, And this was the issue for things. So
that's what's beautiful about our films, is that it forces people to confront all those hypocrisies and all those contradictions. And I feel like if filmmaking is only about escapist entertainment, it's going to get real boring real fast. I love filmmakers where they force you to challenge whatever narratives you cling to, whatever ideas you cling to. Like, it's impossible to watch a Catherine Breillat film and have the same ideas or same conclusions on certain topics when you reach the closing credits. She's one of those rare filmmakers where they're transformative experiences to go through them. And there are very few filmmakers alive today who can lay claim to like having the capacity to completely changing your perspective on certain topics just from the power of their storytelling.
Yeah. So James, I just have to go let the dog back in. So
oh no worries. I'm gonna start the 2-minute break. I'll be back in 120 seconds. So any chance we'll see a cameo of your dog on camera, or is it too disturbed by the conversation about these movies?
Yeah, no, I just gave them some. The cat also came back in, so I just gave them some treats and left them out in the kitchen.
Those animals, like, they are talking about some fucked up shit.
Yeah.
Let's hang out here where it's safe. So let's.
No, I was watching Anatomy of Hell today, and Bella was beside me, and she got disturbed at some of the noises that were coming out.
I get it. I got a little disturbed by Anatomy of Hell as well. Like, I mean, I like to think that I'm a little cynical and jaded, and I've been there, done that, bought the T-shirt. I've seen a lot of crazy movies and with a lot of controversial stuff, but Anatomy of Hell had one shot where I was like, ah, ha, ha, ha. And I was like, all right, Catherine. I was like,
only one, only really.
Well, there's one in particular, but before we get to Anatomy of Hell, let's talk about romance, because I think romance was when a lot of people kind of rediscovered her. And I was in LA at the time. I just moved there, fall of 1999.
Sorry,
the movie came out.
Do you not want to talk about sexist comedy because it's about fat girl? I know.
Well, you keep changing up. I was just going to try to do the whole thing chronologically, but now it's like we're creating mass confusion with our.
Let's go for romance.
You are my guest, and we keep debating over like whose idea it was to do a Catherine Breillat episode. Almost like neither one of us wants to. I thought it was your idea. You said it was my idea, but you are my guest. I'm your host. If you want to talk about sexist comedy,
I just thought because you had just mentioned it there about so after the making of Fat Girl, Breillat like thought to herself, I'm going to make a film about the making of Fat Girl, because of the controversy about sex scenes and all that sort of stuff. And it's a and I think I mentioned it to you. It's probably the most accessible of all her films.
Completely. If you like movies like Godard's Contempt or Francois Truffaut's Day for Night, like French movies about making movies in France, I think sexist comedy gets overlooked as one of the really good ones. And speaking of which, I've got a little clip from the trailer.
Je sais pas où commencer. Je comprends plus rien. Par contre, les figurants, ils font chier. Ils veulent pas se déshabiller, ben virez-les-moi. Qu'on les vire!
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this sexist comedy, it is Breillat's kind of retort to the likes of Francois Truffaut and Godard and Bertolucci and all that. Like normally in films about filmmaking, there's like this kind of sexual power imbalance between the director and the actress in them. Like, so if you have like La Nuit Americaine, Francis Truffaut's, during that film, Francois Truffaut, he was having an affair with Jacqueline Bisset, and then in his alter ego in the film, again played by Jean-Pierre Léaud.
Truffaut's playing the director. Léaud's playing the star in Day for Night.
Played the star. He's having an affair with Jacqueline Bisset's character, and likewise, obviously we already mentioned Last Tango in Paris, but in Fellini's 8.5, Fellini's kind of represented by Marcello Mastroiantonio, and he wants to have all his actresses, and then you've got like in Godard's Le Mépris, which you call it, what's it called again? The American is
Contempt, or Le Mépris, but Contempt in America.
You got the characters of the writer and director, or the writer and producer, played by Michel Piccoli and Jack Palance. They're both lusted after Brigitte Bardot. So, but when the eye of the director is female, there's a different kind of relationship between them and the actor, because there's more likely to be trouble rather than romance going on, or seduction.
Well, the big thing here is what I love about it is that the director, she seems like obviously like she's a stand-in for Catherine Breillat herself and her approach and her style, and how she likes to let the movie push around a little bit. And she likes to kind of just don't frame the scene until you're there on the set and kind of figure out what's going on, but how she's very quick to improvise. She's very quick to problem solve. And most of like the shots in the movie, especially that scene on the beach where, of course, typical filmmaking, they're trying to shoot a romantic scene between two lovers on the beach, and it's cold and it's about to rain, and they're all having to pretend as if they're at some like idyllic, like, beach resort where they're having a makeout scene. And as the problems compound, the director's like, well, then remove that from the script, remove those extras, remove that set. Like, she's always very quick to adapt. And clearly she's a problem solver, but at the same time, she really wants to tell her story. And so what's fascinating about sexist comedy is watching almost like a lion tamer as she's trying to figure out what's going on with her lead actress, what's going on with her lead actor, trying to figure out where their insecurities are, where their mutual animosity might lie, and how can she get the shots that she needs to make her movie worth it. And in the end, it's a rare happy ending in the world of Catherine Breillat, where she's able to get the scene exactly like she wants to, but the hoops she has to jump through, I found this movie to just be an absolute delight. If people think that Catherine Breillat is nothing but trauma and scar tissue and shock and horror and that sort of thing, the flip side of that is sexist comedy, which kind of shows that behind the scenes on a Breillat movie, it's probably actually a very fun environment in which to work.
Hilarious. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing about, like, because again, talking about the male gaze, when a director is a woman, and you have a male actor who has to kind of expose himself, which is like, normally it's the female actor. When a director is male, it's the female actor who has to take her kid off, while the male actor lies there with his bollocks covered. You know what I mean?
Not on HBO. On HBO these days, all they show is like tiny, flaccid, cold penises and no female nudity. Yeah, the tide has changed in the interim.
But I say, and that's because of Catherine Breillat. More than likely, like she has led the charge in. So now we see, even like in that film Saltburn with Barry Keoghan, you see him dancing around at the end of the movie with his knob out. That wouldn't have happened, in my opinion, without Catherine Breillat. Likewise, films with Gaspar Noé and.
No one is willing to go where she goes, because she actually will show a full-blown erect penis in all of its glory. Most people like their cop-out now, whether it's you're talking about Saltburn or an HBO show, they love to show guys like when they get right out of a cold pool, like, all right, go run around outside in the 40-degree weather for a second and come back in, and then we're going to shoot the scene. And be like, no, like, let me take like a fistful of Viagra and look at like a hustler, and then we can shoot the scene. Like, if I were the actor, I'd be like, I would have it contractually written in that I was unable to go in front of the camera unless I was fully erect. But something about the erect penis just rips people to shreds, and people just fall to pieces over the idea of an erect penis. And so we usually just see like hung like a baby's fist in most film and television.
Yeah, I have this quote here from Breillat. It says, when the phallus, whose mystique depends upon it remaining veiled, is exposed as a mere penis, the result can be a severe blow to the actor's machismo.
Which is why in both Fat Girl as well as in Sexist Comedy, the prosthetic penis becomes a big part of it. In Fat Girl, we were unaware of the fact that the actor's wearing a prosthetic penis. But that is a big deal here, where one of the actors, they're fitting it for him. And the question, can they make it? He has a natural kind of bend in his unit as is. And so they're trying to figure out, will the prosthesis stay on as needed for particular scenes? And you really see, like, behind, instead of like, how do we light this scene, or how do we do this? Can we get this location? She's working with the special effects department on the contours and the shape to make sure that the prosthesis will work in the scene as needed. Once again, it's all about problem solving.
And it's also, and this is the actor, he feels inadequate in a way, because he has to use a fake cock, because he can't be relied upon to get hard at the appropriate moment. So therefore they're making him use, plus the fact that he's got a bendy cock, you know what I mean? But they're making him use a prosthetic. But of course he has to pick the biggest one, you know what I mean? Like, so
of course
the biggest one available,
He's very proud of it, and he's walking around the set. Oh, yeah. And he's just kind of proudly displaying the thing.
It's so funny, like.
But it's funny for us. But what I love is how she calls him out on the fact that she's like, look, how come you give all your energy and all your like kind of flirtatious energy and charisma to the crew, but you're not giving it to your co-star, you're not giving it to the camera? Like, in the end, we're making a movie. What matters? What's in the frame? What are we capturing? And this actor, like many actors, he's got a lot of warring impulses. He needs to be corralled by the director so that he saves his energy for the scene as needed, as opposed to fucking around the set and showing off his prosthetic ding-a-ling.
Yeah. No, it's funny. And I really enjoyed it, I have to say. I hadn't seen it. So
I really like how, like, the crew will call out the director, say, look, how come you're always picking on these pretty boys as your lead actors? And then you get mad when they inevitably disappoint you. Like, maybe audition them and listen to them speak instead of just casting these guys. Once again, I've got utterly no use for the expression male gaze, but this is the flip side of that, where this director, her approach to her male actors, I found it to be delightful. And I love it when they're choreographing the scene. Once again, Catherine Breillat's all about choreographing sex scenes. There's this incredible scene in the movie where the actress playing the director in the film, she kicks everybody off the set, including the male lead, And then with
And
the
she
guy
brings
that
in
she's
her
kind of hooking up
assistant.
on the set, yeah, they work it, and it takes them a long
then
time to
and then
write
she
that scene.
flips. She plays the role of the male, and she
Yeah,
makes him
and
play the reverse gender kind of thing going on. It's a really great scene. That
yeah, and he keeps kind of smiling and laughing. He's like, you can keep doing what you want, but if I get hard, like I can't help it. Blah blah blah. But the creative energy and the flirtatious energy between the two of them
yeah,
is so
it's very
infectious,
natural.
and it's so cool. And I love typical actor when the lead of the movie finally gets let back on the set. Of course, he's all butthurt, and his feelings have been wounded because he wasn't allowed to be there and to watch and participate in the collaboration and that sort of thing. I mean, watching this movie would be enough to turn you off to the idea of directing it in perpetuity because you're constantly having to deal with these wounded egos on these fucking
Yeah.
actors.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's probably about 50% of filmmaking is, mollycoddling the actors so that you can get something out of them.
Yeah, I think you have to be like a tyrant, but at the same time, you almost have to be like their best friend. And you have to be their parent. Like, you have to be whatever that actor needs to get the result that you want. Because in the end, it's not like what's right. In the end, it's like, is the movie going to be something that we're all proud of? What can you achieve? So what tactics does she use to finally get the scene that we want or that she wants? Because it's a recreation of the sex scene from Fat Girl, where Roxanne Mesquita, she holds nothing back and she really goes for it.
Yeah, no, it's very good. And in fact, when the film ends and the credit rolls, there's a very funny scene when it comes back to the scene that she's eating a banana, and the actor, he exposes himself to her, like to the director character. He exposes his real penis to her, and she's just like, she gives him this look while she's eating the banana, which is very, very funny as well.
And I love like the way she directs on the set. She's constantly like screaming out instructions and that sort of thing, where it can seem like she's like constantly losing her temper. But when she gets something she wants and she's happy and she smiles, she'll look at her AD and she'll just do a little gesture with her fingers. The AD will call cut, but she's finally got what she wants in the can when she smiles and makes a little gesture. It's just a really cool, interesting study in one way you can go about directing these kinds of movies when you're dealing with very controversial subject matter.
Yeah, I mean, because you mentioned earlier, like these days, it's all about the intimacy coordinators and stuff, So I suppose it's very different from what she was having to deal with,
I mean, she basically was playing the role of her own intimacy coordinator by acting out the scenes with her assistant. And I guess if you can find an intimacy coordinator who can inject something into the creative process that actually makes the movie better, great. Something tells me that oftentimes, and now it's a grift like any other grift, where it's like, unless you have the coordinator on the set, on the payroll, then everybody's going to throw up their hands in despair and that sort of thing. And it's like, yeah, if people wonder why Hollywood movies cost $300 million to make, it's because they keep inventing new departments that you have to pay that have nothing to do with the final product. But that is for other people to figure out. So let's go back. This is the
finally get there.
Robert will let me this
Romance.
time. Romance, 1999. The third time's the charm. This was my first exposure to Catherine Breillat. I saw this in the theater in LA. And what is the premise of this Too Hot to Handle movie?
Well, so Romance is again, it gets back to the whole thing of Catholic guilt. So you've got this woman and her boyfriend, they've been living together for about 3 months. They've been having great sex for 3 months, and they're kind of coming around to the idea of getting married, maybe. So because she's suddenly become wife material to him, he suddenly loses interest, And this film kind of hits close to home to me in for some of the relationships I've been in, and I don't know. I think I could speak for a lot of males that, you're in a relationship with a girl, the sex is great, you have a great time, and then there comes a point where the sex isn't so great anymore, and the sex, you just
stops altogether.
Interest.
And it happens
you lose
to gay
interest.
men as well. I was listening to Brett Easton Ellis's podcast the other day. He's been living with the same guy for 14 years. He says the idea of us coming home and being excited to leap into bed together is totally ridiculous. Like, at a certain point, if two people live together long enough, it just gets a little too familiar and it just fades. Love fades, is Woody Allen said in Annie Hall.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is what's going through. But this woman, like the main character in it, she wants more. She wants fulfillment. She wants like love. She wants physicality, but she also wants intellectual stimulation as well. Like, she wants all three things. And the men who come into her life, including her boyfriend, don't give her all three of those things. They one like her husband loves her, or her boyfriend, he loves her. He wants to marry her. He's totally in love with her, but he has his own like sexual shame, sexual guilt from his own Catholicism. That he doesn't want her to do disgusting things to him anymore, because he now sees her as the kind of it's the classic Madonna whore complex. You know what I mean? Like that's what it comes down to. And she switched from, because when he's a man and he's out hunting the girls and he's out dancing, he's virile. He wants to shag whoever's going. But once they become wife material, they're like the Madonna, and they have to be worshipped, and they can't be doing dirty things like giving blowjobs or whatever it may be.
Many guys fall into that trap. Like even in like a comedy, like Analyze This, when the gangster played by Robert De Niro is being asked by a psychiatrist, how come your wife can't do certain things with you that you ask your girlfriends to do? And he's like, hey, that's the mouth she kisses my kids with. Like tons of guys have these like internal conflicts where they can't handle having like those two ingredients in the same human being. And there's a great line from the Ingmar Bergman film, which he made for TV. Hang on, what the hell is it called? What was the one he did? It was like I saw it because of Dave Eves and Becky Deanna. Why am I having trouble finding it? Anyway, it's a movie about putting on The Right. Here it is, The Right, from 1969. But at one point, one of these two actors is talking about what's required to look after his girlfriend, that the other actor is starting to get involved in. He says, look, she basically needs two boyfriends, one to look after her wounded psyche and one to take care of her physical needs. But obviously it's hard to find a guy who can perform both roles. But there's a scene in this movie, which I think is probably the greatest visual metaphor that Catherine Breillat has ever cooked up, where you see a dream sequence where it's a circular chamber and all the girls are lying on these slabs where the upper part of their body is on the inside of this chamber and the lower half of the body.
They're all in white, and it's all white and pristine, because that's like that's heaven. That's like
So inside, the guys are being reassuring and saying sweet things, and they're being kind and they're being intimate and they're doing all the things that a boyfriend needs to do. But on the other side of the wall, it's just like all these hunched over like savages and like knuckle dragging, like manly,
and
burly,
it's all red colors, red lighting and stuff like that, which is kind of again hell.
And they're just wandering around and having their way with the lower portion. I was like, wow, Catherine Breillat is basically admitting and showing how you can have two very warring impulses inside your mind at the same time. And I remember in 1999, when I was 23 years old and slightly more ignorant about women than I am today, I just found that scene to be earth-shattering in terms of what it was revealing about at least Catherine Breillat's psyche.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, for sure. And that's the thing, because also like she uses the whole colored thing in her cinema, especially in this film. Like at first we see the main protagonist, she's all dressed in white. Her boyfriend's apartment, it's all white, everything's white, and it's kind of representing the virginal way he wants her to be and all that sort of stuff. And it's only at one point later in the film that we see her in the red dress, and so yeah, she kind of uses these colors to kind of express the virginal aspect of sex and the dirty, nasty part of sex, and it's yes. So, but anyway, so she goes out there. She finds this one guy. So she wants to go out and just get laid. So she finds this one guy, played by Italian porn star Rocco. Rocco.
I almost used his name for the recording as well. I'm glad.
Yes, I just thought it'd be funny.
Let me give everybody a taste of Rocco with a little clip from the trailer for Romance. Well, sadly, Rocco didn't make the cut. I thought he was in that. He's actually in the trailer for the next movie we'll be discussing. But for people who don't know who Rocco is, because when I first saw this in 1999, I'm not seeing like one or two porn movies ever, but it was before the proliferation of porn on the internet. And so I wasn't aware of like the stars, but now I'm aware that he's this huge star. But who is the male lead who pops up in an early scene in Romance?
Yeah, Rocco Siffredi. I mean, I don't know much about him apart from I haven't seen his porn back catalog or anything. I've only seen him in the two.
I think about him coming out like in a few short weeks. Like he's definitely has a reputation.
Yeah. Well, I'm the wrong person to ask. I haven't seen his porn back catalog. I just know that he was a porn star brought in to play. And in fact, when Breillat, she kept it a secret from everybody, all the cast and all the crew, that she was actually getting a porn star to play this part, and she only told them basically as they started to shoot. And when they were doing this scene where you see his erect penis and he kind of mounts her and enters her from behind, the sound recorders started protesting. He said, "This isn't cinema. You know what this?" He went crazy because it was just like outrageous for them, because they were kind of aware of Breillat's reputation, but this was the first time this had been done on a mainstream film. So
I will tell all those crew members, read the script, fuck off.
yeah, exactly. But this guy Rocco, he wants to kiss her and get it on with her, but she's like, "I don't want to see. I'm not in love with your face. I don't love you." She's not attracted to him. He satisfies the sexual
from her
urge.
boyfriend. The intimacy comes from her boyfriend. She's just looking to get her rocks off with this fella.
Yeah, and he satisfied that need from her, but she doesn't want to. Once the act is over, she doesn't want to kiss him anymore. She doesn't want to do anything, and he's kind of like in this kind of vulnerable position, and it's like the sex scene. So like when he's having sex with her, like again, the difference between a sex scene shot by a man and shot by a woman, it focuses on him, on his face, and his orgasm, and what he's going through, and his like deflation, as it were, like as he comes down from his orgasm and stuff, and not just his face and his breath and all that, but also his flaccid penis, and it's something that, again, you wouldn't see. It also concentrates a little bit on the pleasure that we see in the main protagonist's face as well, but it's not, you don't get to see the crotch shot, or you don't get to see anything too explicit, as it were, in the scene, but
I would say seeing the fully erect penis of a famous porn star is pretty explicit.
Yeah,
but maybe not completely explicit by Catherine Breillat standards.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What I mean is, you don't get to see
a Michael Bay movie. That would be very explicit.
There's no penetration, and but you don't get to see her. You don't get to see her shot or her pussy, which you would see if it was a male directed it. You know what I mean? That's my point. And that's her point too. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of controversy surrounding the scene where there was a lot of he said, she said, where the two actors. They're making public statements about that scene, and there were discrepancies between the two actors in terms of what they simulated and what they did not. And I don't know if that debate was ever really settled in satisfying fashion, but clearly the actress was game for this movie, but she also was ambivalent about a lot of the scenes in it. And they're basically, between the director and the two leads, you've had a lot of different contradictory statements. And I'm not going to reread everything that I found on IMDb here, but if you want the full story, there's a ton of supplementary info out there about all the behind the scenes hoops they had to jump through trying to get the shots and the scenes that they needed. But it seems like Catherine, while she's been so careful on so many of her other movies like Sex is Comedy, here maybe she was a little less careful, which is why you had all these controversies. So maybe she learned lessons on romance, which she then applied to later movies in terms of getting the scenes that she needed.
Yeah, and there's also another interesting scene here, which is repeated in Anatomy of Hell. So there's a scene where the character, or the main protagonist, the woman, is masturbating on the bed, and it's in the trailer there, actually, and you see her legs are crossed, and her feet are crossed, and so like it's not like she's got her legs spread, her legs are crossed, and this is based on another film that Breillat, and we see the exact same scene in Anatomy of Hell, and it's based on a film by it was a woman called Christine Pascal, her film Felicity, where she actually played the lead character.
I've seen Felicity. It's great.
And she does the same scene with her legs crossed, and it's about the shame of wanting to masturbate but not wanting to experience too much pleasure while doing it.
There's a lot going on there. You could also argue, it's very like Christ-like, like you're being like crucified on a cross. Or you could also just, sometimes you can just keep things simple. Some girls like to squeeze their legs together while they masturbate. They just think it feels better. And so it's like, I like how there's a lot to unpack there, but sometimes the simplest explanation can be the best explanation. different people masturbate in different ways. Like I've talked to some girls where they say they can have an orgasm sitting on a plane just by crossing their legs and squeezing. And so, yeah, you could say there's shame, or you could say maybe it just feels better as well.
Well, I think in this context, that's what they were trying to get across. And because this woman, Christine Pascal, like she was around at the same time as Breillat was making her films, and she was hounded by the press and like caused all kind of controversy, and eventually she committed suicide. You know, she jumped out a window of a hospital, killed herself. And in fact, Anatomy of Hell at the very end, it's dedicated to Christine Pascal, the director of Felicity. So it was important. So she puts the same scene exactly into, but shows it even more in the Anatomy of Hell, which we'll come to in a bit. You know?
Well, like Fat Girl, Romance has I wouldn't say quite as controversial an ending, but controversial enough. Like throughout the entire movie, all I kept asking myself is, why does she like this guy? He is a pretty boy douchebag who thinks he's the coolest guy on this planet. But all he does, he reminded me of like Ben Stiller and Zoolander, like that blue steel, like kind of expression where he's just walking around.
Yeah, well, he's a model. You know, he's a model.
But he's a total bubblehead, totally vapid, totally empty. And yet she's totally obsessed with him and all that kind of stuff. I was like, you can do better than this guy. But she gets the last laugh because she leaves the gas on in the apartment, and she leaves, and I was like, yes,
but hold on, so before we come to that, because there's another character in it, a guy called Robert, who's the headmaster of the school, because she's a teacher and she worked there. So she meets this third guy, and in fact she meets a few other people, but she meets this third guy, and he brings her home, and he's kind of like the intellectual stimulation that she needs, but he's also into like sadomasochism, and he starts tying her up and gagging her, and in a way, it's through his character that she becomes like less ashamed of her sexuality or sexual desires and all that stuff. Because there's one point where he makes her look in the mirror, and she can't even look at herself in the mirror, and then eventually she's able to see, and that's when you see her change from the white dress into the red dress for the first time, you know. And then after she's been with him, and she's becoming more enlightened, and then she goes back to her boyfriend, and I
love how she says, be careful, last time you tied me up, like my hands were numb for weeks. And he's like, sounds like you have bad circulation. Like he doesn't like, oh, I'm so sorry. He doesn't
exactly. And in fact, Breillat, she asked Jean-Luc Godard, and she asked Roman Polanski to play the part of that Robert.
Yeah, Roman Polanski might have been maybe too controversial, but I guess in 1999 he hadn't had quite as big. Even though there's nothing new to add to the conversation, people looked at Polanski in the late 90s differently than they look at him now. But like, having Polanski in there, he could have done it. I mean, he's a pretty good actor. He was great in The Tenant, but holy moly, that would have made the movie even more radioactive.
Yeah, that's who she asked first, Godard and Polanski. They both said no, so she got this other actor, you know. But yeah, then she goes back to her husband, and she's in the red dress, and he kind of figures out that she's cheating on him. So then he suddenly he finally is getting horny, and he tries to have sex with her, you know. But then she wants to ride him, and she becomes the kind of dominant in while they're having sex, and he's kind of in the less dominant role, or the feminine role, or whatever, and it freaks him out, and he throws her off the bed, you know. But in this moment, a drop of sperm comes out of his penis, and
one little drop.
And she calls it the Immaculate Conception or whatever, you know, like, so and that leads to the scene at the end which you said you gave you a bit of an fright, did it?
Well, yeah, I was watching it, and I hated the boyfriend so much. And when she turned on the gas to kill him, I was like, all right. So I was feeling all these soaring emotion that this fucking asshole is getting removed from the plot. But at the same time, suddenly it cuts to, she loves doing this in both this as well as Anatomy of Hell, these abrupt close-ups of like extreme close-ups of genitalia when something very sudden and abrupt happens. In this case, it is the birth of a baby, but when the camera is like right up in a girl's business and a baby's head comes out, it can be a little gnarly, a little intense. And I just was like, ah! I just screamed and recoiled. I just wasn't ready. If someone had, if I was prepared, I would have kind of braced myself for the experience. But it can be pretty intense to suddenly be confronted with the act of birth in all of its lurid glory.
Yeah, and in fact, it's the guy Robert, the headmaster guy. who's doing all this S&M stuff with, he becomes her birthing partner. You know, he's there with her through this kind of last bit of thing, and it's almost like going through one of their sessions anyway. You know what I mean? Because she's experiencing pleasure and pain at the same time.
She's
You know?
like, been there, done that. Birth holds no surprises for me, but a movie that does hold a few surprises. The last one on our to-do list, Anatomy of Hell from 2004, yet another very tight, very economical movie. And I think on the surface, some people might
based on
think,
her book Pornocracy,
but
which
some
was her
people
first.
might think this might be her most shocking and most controversial. I don't think it's as even though it's more overtly aggressive than some of her other films. I find Fat Girl and Romance to be a little more shocking, but I was glad to see Anatomy of Hell. What is the unusual premise at the core? What is the I guess the deal that gets negotiated between the two central characters?
Yeah, well, like again, I mean, it starts off this woman and her boyfriend are going to a gay club because her boyfriend likes to get sucked off by men, you know what I mean? And so she's kind of left there, and none of the men are looking at her. They're all during a gay club, and it's pretty explicit from frame one. You know, you get to see a lot of stuff going.
There's no confusion as to where they are when the movie starts.
Yeah, and so she kind of drifts off down to the toilet, and on the way she passes this guy, again played by Rocco, and they touch briefly, and he kind of she's going in to commit suicide. You know, she's going into the toilet, and we see her. She starts cutting her wrist, and he bursts in, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I have to let the dog out again.
I know, right? The dogs have a very appropriate response.
Yeah, I think she remembers. You know,
I don't want to watch Anatomy of Hell ever again. Please stop talking about it. Yeah, we're gonna have to get that dog on camera when he gets back. But let me look up.
So, so and he takes her to the chemist or to the pharmacy, and they patch her up. But and then she brings him like outside. They go for a walk, and she ends up performing fellatio on him. And again, it's a nod to that film In the Realm of the Senses. There's a very similar scene in The Realm of Senses.
The Nagisa Oshima classic, which is awesome. It's rough cinema, and it ends. It's based on a true story. The way it ends is intensely. I don't want to say controversial, but it goes to the dark side. And I think for anybody who's interested in Catherine Breillat, they definitely need to wrestle with the cinema of Nagisa Oshima as well.
Yeah, and so it's kind of based on that same scene of in that where the woman performs oral sex on the guy, but it's not like at the end she's kind of raised up from having performed it, and it's a very similar shot. But she negotiates a deal with this guy and says, "Look, I want you to come and observe me and watch me, and I'll pay you to do it." Because she kind of thinks, and this is kind of where a little bit of controversy comes in, because the guy's gay, that he might have like a sort of a clean slate to work from. He hasn't got all this male internal programming that heterosexual males have towards women.
So that carrying around less baggage in theory.
Yeah, exactly. So he'd be able to look at her through different eyes. So she arranges to pay him, and he'll come by over a series of nights and watch her, and whatever else happens, man.
Watch her when she's at her most unwatchable, as she describes it. But I was like, you know what?
Yeah,
you're a very lovely girl. There's nothing unwatchable about you at all. But she seems to have this mistaken assumption or impression that like all men want to kill her or hate her or whatever. But like the actress Amira Kassar, when I was watching, I was like, you know, she doesn't look like a movie star. She doesn't look like a porn star, but she's so pretty and just so, I guess, so innately charismatic that it almost kind of implodes some of her assumptions about the way guys might feel toward her. She's like, all guys naturally want to kill women. I'm like, not really. I would be happy to be in the role of Rocco Siffredi and watch you for 4 nights in a row. Like for him, it's this traumatizing experience. He's always bawling and weeping and freaking out and all that sort of thing. But like, I never quite understood the internal torment that he was going through. But the movie is so outrageous in so many ways. I had no trouble sticking around and watching it and enjoying the ride.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was kind of Breillat's like full frontal attack on pornography in a way, you know, because she just felt that she hadn't gone far enough with films like romance and stuff. She hadn't kind of shown what she wanted to show in terms of counteracting pornography's obsession with the female genitalia, whatever. And she wanted to show it in a different light, as it were, in a different way, which is what she...
Also, it's like people talking about porn being obsessed with female genitalia. It's like, what porn are people talking about? Because most of the porn I see, you got a big old dingus and a vajayjay doing the business. It's like, you can't have one without the other. It's like, it's very hard to shoot porn where you remove, unless it's just girl on girl, but it's like, I don't know what porn people are watching where somehow the penis is obscured.
Okay,
every porn I've ever seen has got like a 12-inch dick in it.
Okay, but porn has changed a lot since the dawn of the internet age. You know,
well, John Holmes in the 1970s, he had like an 18-inch dick, and so that was like was the feature attraction.
Yeah, okay, I know, but I mean, the idea of what she would have thought about of porn growing up, becoming a young girl in like 60s, 90s, or 70s France, 80s, and so on, is what formed her impressions of what she was trying to counteract.
Yeah, and I've watched a lot of 70s French porn through the episode we did about Brigitte Lahaye last year with Terry Osterhout. I've seen a lot of those movies from the 70s. She shot with like Jean Rollin and filmmakers like that. Same thing. Like I could even like go get a collection of DVDs that Terry sent me after we recorded, but I just feel like when you make generalizations about porn is always very dangerous, because it's very easy to throw a rock and find an exception to the rule as opposed to something that proves the rule.
Yeah, no, sure. But yeah, so she kind of like puts him through this kind of... So when he first comes, like, he's a bit kind of standoffish and stuff, and she kind of strips naked and lies there. And in fact, it's funny because they use this, like, she lies on the bed kind of spread eagled, and he can't face her, so he turns around and he faces the mirror, and he sees her image in the mirror. And this image in the mirror, it was based on this Edouard Manet picture, Olympia, and they used, before the film was released, they took stills of and blew up frames from this scene and hung them in art galleries all around France as a kind of advertisement for this film before it was released, you know. But yeah, no. So at first he's just a bit... He's standing off, and he's not really into getting in too close and doing too much. But gradually, she draws him in as the night and the nights progress. You know.
Yeah, I love how she's weeping at the end of the first night. She's like, "It's only the first night. We got like 3 nights to go." But here's a little taste of the movie from the trailer. And we'll see if that gets me through. That's actually the most innocent 11 seconds from that trailer. It was very difficult coming up with clips for this recording, but I managed to find them. But what's wild about this flick is just seeing, like, I guess, all this internal torment that he's going through. But by the end, I mean, I don't know if, like, you know, like how gay men would feel if they're watching this, like, in terms of the conclusion she's making about his characters, or the fact that, like, obviously a heterosexual porn star is playing a gay man. But I think he does a good job, like, just showing like his shock and horror. I think it seems like what the movie's trying to get at is like certain things like vaginal blood during a period, or like the close up of like female genitalia with like she'd very deliberately used a body double who had a huge like unkempt bush because she was trying to shock the audience. I'm like, you know what? I was born in 1976. I prefer a bush to no bush. So that stuff I didn't find shocking at all. And maybe when I was 17, the idea of vaginal blood, I'd have to like pretend to be shocked and horrified. Every guy at some point comes to terms with the idea, like, would you rather not have sex or have sex with a girl when she's on her period? And the answer is obvious. Like, don't be a coward, but fucking go for it. Throw down a towel like a man and get her done. And so I didn't necessarily buy into the same assumptions that the character has, but the actress is so goddamn good. I loved Amira Kassar in this. I thought she was absolutely incredible. And, you know, Rocco, he's an amazing porn star in a lot of ways, but as an actor, he does not have the chops of the lead. So I think in the absence of Amira Kassar, I would have struggled with this movie, even though I do enjoy watching provocative content that's designed to make people scream in horror, like when he finally does have sex with her on her period and he pulls out and we get this extreme close up with, you know, all the mess. I had a similar response to when I saw the birthing from Romance. I wasn't, once again, I just wasn't ready. She caught me off guard.
Yeah, but again, like for Breillat, it's the whole thing of a woman menstruating, and it comes to do with the Catholic Church. Like in the eyes of the Catholic Church, when a girl reaches the time where she can finally have babies, she becomes impure, you know. And the idea of menstrual blood, not just in
like Carrie's mom, and Carrie, like her mom thinks that somehow if Carrie can remain pure enough that she'll never have her period or never grow breasts. It's like, yeah, people have been believing and buying into a lot of silly things for many, many years. And yeah, while there's plenty to complain about in the modern age, thankfully there were fewer people like Carrie's mom and Carrie today than there were in the late 70s.
Yeah, and all the different like religions, whether you're talking about Judaism or Muslim, certain Muslim sects and Catholic Christianity and stuff, they all have these kind of things where the woman has to be kind of isolated while she's in her period or whatever. And in Christianity and in Catholicism, a woman wasn't supposed to take communion when she was having her period, you know. So it was all these kind of crazy stuff.
I would be like, thanks, like, gives me a perfect excuse to skip church today. Like,
exactly.
I'm a period every day. You know, I'm a man. I don't have to go to Sunday school or chapel anymore. But
and there are shots like where they cut to the crucifix on the wall and stuff from her on the bed and stuff. I have to let the dog back in, so excuse me.
Do your thing. I'll get my next note prepared.
Okay, come on. Good girl. Now stay there. Oh yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a cue for Hugh let the dogs out on this channel for every time your dog wants to come. But sometimes dogs, it's like they don't know if they want like to go in a room or out of room, or if they have a bone, or if you give them two bones, they don't know which bone they want in their mouth. That they're constantly picking one up, putting it down, picking up the other. Dogs are indecisive, but your dog's welcome to come on camera anytime. But I found this little anecdote about the filming of these scenes. And Siffredi, he does, while the actress used a body double for a few close-ups, for Siffredi, he did all of his own close-ups. And he said, well, he's very defensive of Breillat and is always trying to protect her from people that are critical of her. But she wrote this part with him in mind. And he said, I think Catherine has a lot of sexual fantasies, and unconsciously, she may want to sleep with me. When she was explaining one scene to me, she took my sex in her hand and explained to Amira how she should play the scene. Once she said to me that if she was younger, she might have played Amira's part herself. So I think that's another thing to keep in mind with these movies, is that I don't think an artist needs to have made up their mind in advance about their story before they film it. Sometimes an artist is exploring complicated material, complex material, and they're trying to figure out like what's going on with their own fantasies or insecurities. And I like the idea that Catherine Breillat always seems to be in the process of evolving and discovering, as opposed to so many modern filmmakers where their mind seems so made up and they have this horrendous moral certitude about all their decisions. Like, you know what, maybe go on a journey with your film, and maybe you'll be in a different place at the end of that movie than you were at the beginning. And I get the sense that Catherine Breillat is always in a process of evolution, and you see it in the movies.
It's worth mentioning that her first husband was a gay man. She married him knowing he was. She married him knowing he was gay, and they had her first child. They had a first child together. I think she has 3 different children from 3 different men. But I think I'm not sure if she was married 3 times, but she was definitely married. The first time was to a gay man, and she married him knowing he was gay, and it was a kind of a relationship.
Wasn't that gay?
He wasn't that gay. Yeah. Well, he must have been bi, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like,
as people always say, like, you know, sexuality is like it's a percentage game. Maybe it's 85-15, maybe it's 50-50, but like, you know, Ron White, one of my favorite comedians in America, he has this incredible bit about it. He's like, well, everybody's a little bit gay. And he's like, I have all these redneck friends who say, no, man, I ain't gay at all. He's like, all right, well, when you're watching porn, like, do you like to see the guy who has a little teeny tiny dick, or do you like him to see like a big old hog? He's like, oh man. And anyways, he's great at kind of unpacking how even very straight red-blooded men, when they're watching porn, they got to be a little gay. Otherwise they wouldn't care if the guy's packing heat or not.
Yeah. Interesting point, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Ron White, he's a comedian from Texas, but he just likes, you know, poking people with the stick. And I think Catherine Breillat's films absolutely poke people with the stick, whether those people are repressed Catholics or political censors, or they're so up their own ass in terms of like their decrees about sexuality. I just like running into filmmakers where they're not afraid to shock the hell out of you while exploring their own autobiography and trying to explore new frontiers. And I think it's why 50 years from now, people will still be talking about her and watching her movies because she makes so many contemporary filmmakers seem so boring and so risk averse and so safe by comparison. Bring on Catherine. I hope she lives for another 100 fucking years and keeps making movies. And
Yeah,
I've been very bad about watching her current crop of flicks, but I need to get caught up on her more recent work.
no, I was just about to say, like, I'm going to be hunting down some of her films, some of her later films. Like, I think there's one that she's done with Isabelle Huppert, which I want to see, and the one that you mentioned from in between 36 Fillette and I can't remember what it was called now, but yeah, there's quite a few. So I will be looking at some of her other films. Like, no, it's fair. Like, I was interested because you told me last year or earlier this year that you were going to the New York Festival and you had a ticket to go see the latest Catherine Breillat film.
Last summer,
and you didn't go.
I don't know why I didn't go. It's one of the New York Film Festival when you're watching like 3 or 4 movies a day. Like in advance, you're like, oh, I want to see all this stuff. But after you've been sitting in the theater for like 3 movies, you're like, I don't care if they're showing my favorite movie. I'm out of here. Like I'm movied out. And so I did end up skipping last summer, much to my embarrassment and chagrin.
Yeah, no, but it's one I'll be looking to see, and there's a few others that I have on my
one
list.
that I really want to see is The Last Mistress, which I believe has Roxanne Mesquita in it, as well as her film Bluebeard, which came out in 2009. But yeah, I'll watch any of her movies. And but once again, luckily, between all of her novels and all of her films, she's had an incredibly prolific career. Even though some people have like fought her every step of the way or reacted in horror every step of the way, she's just kept putting one foot in front of the other, determined to tell her stories her way. She's a genuine iconoclast, and I wish we had more of them. But like I said at the beginning, for people who like her stuff, other filmmakers that you would like, Lars von Trier, his films like Antichrist and Nymphomania or Nymphomaniac, his collaborations with Charlotte Gainsbourg, I think are very reminiscent of Catherine Breillat movies.
Absolutely.
Gaspar Noé movies like Irreversible are very reminiscent. And Michael Haneke, his film Piano Teacher with Isabelle Huppert, I think it's very
absolutely
same family tree. I never get tired of this kind of controversial, provocative cinema.
And when I can't remember the director's name who done Baisse Moi, but when that film came out, the French government wanted to classify it as X-rated, and Catherine Breillat came out and protested about it, and it got like an 18 cert instead, and so it was able to get a general release.
I saw Baisse Moi in 2000 at the New Art Theater in LA. It's directed by Virginie Despentes.
Yes, exactly.
No, I'm not getting that right. As well as Coralie Trenti. Heaven help me.
I watched this documentary in preparation for this by Christian Despentes. It's called Mutants, Feminism, Porno, Punk. And,
you don't have to even make a movie at the point. Just release the title. It'd be
it's basically it's women from various different forms of art, from painting, film, music, whatever, and a lot of interviews with Catherine Breillat in this as well. So that's what I kind of used as part of my research. So but even though Catherine Breillat didn't agree with the content of Baisse Moi in terms of the reasoning for the women wanting to go on this killing spree and all this stuff, that she still fought for its release under an 18 cert rather than being X-rated.
The movie basically is about, it's like 2 girls. It's like a natural born killer scenario, but they spend like the first third of the film,
Thelma and Louise,
screwing a bunch of guys, and then the last half of the movie they just go on like a murderous rampage. But I can remember the crowd reaction during that screening was electric, and the first time they whipped out the guns, people were cheering and screaming. Baisse Moi plays like a goddamn rock concert, and the English translation of the title is just Rape Me. If you want to set people off. But the French, between this kind of movie, this kind of filmmaking, as well as the horror films of the new French extremity, for whatever reason in the early 2000s, there was just something in the water where, even we could do another video another time about the new French extremity, but like those horror films, things like what was the big one that got released in America that's totally blanking. Hang on, I'm just going to do a quick Google search. French extreme. I guarantee it's going to be the first one that comes up if I look it up. So I'm looking at this list of notable films. Catherine Breillat is being included. Her film Anatomy of Hell is being included. Lars von Trier, even though he's not French, his film Antichrist is being included. Why? Oh my God! Why can't I find this movie that I'm looking for. This is, and I wish I was gonna have the capacity to High Tension. Jesus fucking Christ, High Tension was the big one that it made a huge splash here in America. But I feel like Catherine Breillat and for me, French Extremity, they feel more like horror films. Whereas Catherine Breillat, I don't think any of her films that I've seen are overtly horror films. We're in that genre, but pick your poison. Some people might disagree.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. I'm just kind of googling that myself. But yeah, no, yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, as far as other French Extremity films are concerned, the one that's probably the most disturbing that I've ever seen, maybe the most disturbing horror film I've ever seen, it's called Martyrs, which came out around the same time. That will really.
I think I might have it on DVD actually or something.
Oh, dude, yeah. So High Tension, Martyrs, Titan, which is relatively recent.
Yeah.
But yeah, on this list I'm looking at, they've got Martyrs listed at number 2, but they've got Climax listed as number 1. I don't think Climax is actually that shocking. When Gaspar Noé
is it? Yeah.
Yeah, but it was his first film to get an R rating, so it's like, well, then how extreme can it be? Like, Irreversible is far more disturbing than than Climax. Irreversible I saw that in the theater as well. Holy moly, that movie is rough.
Yeah, but like we said before we actually started the podcast, I think it's Catherine Breillat and other filmmakers like her, but her, I think she has a lot to do with what's allowed in mainstream cinema now these days 100%. As compared to back in the day, So
all right, so let's get philosophical as a way of wrapping this up. What would you say is the value of having filmmakers like Catherine Breillat? Like, what do they bring to the table when people talk about like theater, they're grotesque and like these kind of provocations to the audience? Because for me, they are absolutely, it's every era needs their version of Catherine Breillat to shock people out of their bullshit and point out the hypocrisies of their time. But for you, what is the value of filmmakers where they really force the audience to get right up close and personal with a close-up of something that they might not necessarily want to see that close?
I mean, again, like coming from a Catholic background in a very staunchly Catholic country, like things that are seen as obscene and taboo and stuff like that, they're not going to change, unless they're brought into the mainstream. Like it's only because they're we only see them in porn or whatever it may be that they are taboo, and once they're exposed to the mainstream, the taboo is broken and the obscenity is lost, and so I think the value of these sort of films is that because all these taboos and obscenities that freak people out and cause, like back in my day when I was growing up, there was this woman from England called Mary Whitehouse, and she used to be out, banging the drum about the slightest thing, whether it was Life of Brian or whether it was just a pair of breasts or in a thing, and she was constantly on the television, and they gave her loads of airtime. I'm sure like all your English contributors or British contributors to Wrong Reel would be well aware of Mary Whitehouse. She's this kind of, and slowly she became like obsolete in a way because gradually cinema changed, television changed, and what they allowed to be on.
She just became a figure of ridicule.
Yeah, absolutely, because new stations came on that tested the boundaries of what could be shown on mainstream television, and now there's very little that is not allowed. Obviously, just porn for porn's sake isn't allowed. But
although we are entering a period where certain entertainment companies definitely have, I would say, regressive attitude towards freedom of expression. And I think while it's obvious to us the value of a filmmaker like this and how she opens up doors and opens up new way of looking at controversial subject matter, it seems like this battle has to be fought all over again with every generation. And even though it's the most obvious thing in the world to us, like, don't censor authors, don't censor filmmakers. People need to be able to, if people want to, they need to be able to have access to these kinds of stories. But every generation has like a new version of the person who says, no, you can't show that, you can't say that, how dare you? And my attitude always is, I will say and I will read and I will watch whatever the hell I want. And if you don't like it, there's the door. And that's just my attitude. Freedom of expression. I'm a terrorist when it comes to freedom of expression.
Yeah, I mean that's the danger of this whole like wokeism, the woke movement, and not just that, but though when you have like corporations, businesses running studios or running like film distribution centers, that's a danger too, because they're kind of more likely to follow some sort of moral code based on whatever that will kind of censor stuff that we should be not having censored in this day and age. But yeah, you're
And I
right.
don't even think they actually even believe in it. It's so cynical. They just think it's like the price of doing business. We have to enforce these rigid codes in order to look good to our boss or whatever the case might be. But it's just like, I think anytime you've got giant corporations that are trying to stamp out a filmography like this, it's like a game of whack-a-mole. It's just going to pop up somewhere else. Oh, you can't make television anymore that explores this kind of stuff, but then people are going to write books. Oh, you can't write books about this anymore. Oh, and then they're going to create paintings. Like, as I said in Jurassic Park, nature will find a way. And I think storytellers and artists, they will always find a way. Just the medium might change.
Yeah, no, and being a male who's probably been guilty of the male gaze over the years, the idea of having intimacy coordinators on film, like I've seen some of the stuff like that has been done, some over this side of the water that's come out, and it's been announced that they had an intimacy coordinator on set. So at that, when you look at the sex scenes, they're like bland and not exciting for me. They don't excite me the way this woman did in Betty Blue back in 1986. You know what I mean?
A very different experience. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like, I don't want to lose that experience that I had. And that was in a cinema in Ireland in 1986 when Ireland was still
one of the sexiest movies ever made. And I covered that with Terry as well on Wrong Reel.
So like there is a danger of that, of losing that. And no, I will fight and rally against that with my time.
There's a new and kind of insidious movement where I've noticed that, like, certain shows on HBO where they always try to depict sex in a way where it's always unattractive, always ugly, always disturbing. And I don't know what the ultimate goal of these people is, but it's like, guess what? Probably 90% of the planet watches porn in some way, shape, or form, or definitely. I mean, actually, I can't speak for anyone else. I watch porn. I have no guilt. I have no problems. And I would say that in the absence of sex in movies, like we had in the 80s and 90s, it's only made porn more relevant, more popular, because people are gonna find it wherever it might be. So once again, I try to be as honest about human nature as humanly possible. And there are plenty of women that are directing porn flicks, plenty of women that are producing porn flicks, making a good living off of it as well. And more power to them. I don't care, male, female, straight, bi, whatever. Just make great cinema, and I will watch. And if you have a new point of view that I've never been exposed to before, like with Catherine Breillat, like I'll keep coming back to it. That fantasy sequence from Romance with the circular chamber was awe-inspiring. It just, film is a visual medium. Yeah, I'm getting that dog worked up talking about that hot scene. But like, film is a visual medium, and if you can show with an image, if you can make your point with an image as opposed to with voiceover narration, then that's a sign of a real film. Like, oh, look at the puppy dog. What's happening?
There you go, Bella.
How are you? You are officially a YouTube star. We should have brought the dog on at the beginning. If you want to do well on YouTube, put dogs in your videos. People never get.
Okay,
that should be the title of the video: watching Catherine Breillat with the cute puppy dog.
Like, yeah, there you go.
Well, as always, it's a divine pleasure recording with you and talking flicks with you. And I didn't do it on purpose, having Naughty 90s followed by Catherine Breillat. Whatever the next episode of Wrong Reel will be, it'll need to be like Walt Disney Revisited or something like that, just to kind of balance things out. But what are some future topics that you and I might tackle?
Well, I don't know, because I've been trying to think, because I don't want to just get stuck into, just because I'm in France. Like I wanted to because I moved to France, talk about some French films. So I talked about Jules Dassin, him coming over here, and then I talked about Maurice Pilat, and now we've done Catherine Breillat. But I don't know. I have a few ideas that I'm kind of working on, because I'll hit you up soon, with some ideas,
Very cool.
And who knows, we may eventually get back to Catherine Breillat Part 2.
Yeah, or hopefully, maybe if you choose to be an optimist about the future, whatever the next iteration of a provocateur like Catherine Breillat might be. There's a shortage of provocateurs now that Lars von Trier is kind of getting sick and old. Michael Michel Haneke, he's getting real old. A lot of these filmmakers are going to start sadly moving on to filmmaker heaven, and the question is, who's going to pick up that flag and wave it? Who's going to fight those battles for freedom of expression? Because while it might not be necessarily at Amazon or Apple, or actually, no, I shouldn't throw Netflix under the bus. Netflix every once in a while will throw some random show and movie, and they're like, whoa, okay, y'all are at least trying to depict sexuality to some degree, but we're just going through a very restrictive period. And who knows, maybe the next period we go through will be the equal and opposite response, where they just go so excessive in the other direction. We're like, no. We need to go back to the repressive regimes. I'm being only half serious, of course. But yeah, we're just living through a buzzkill, wet blanket, just douchebag, like pro-censorship era. And if you're pro-censorship, whether you're talking about Ian Fleming novels or Roald Dahl novels or Catherine Breillat films, lose my phone number, because we got nothing to discuss. I am as anti-censorship as it gets.
Yeah.
Not talking to Robert, just into the proverbial hypothetical crowds out there who might, in theory, believe in censorship. And obviously, there are some people. There are pro-censorship voices out there, and I just always wonder, like, what made you into the person? Like, what made you want to grow up to be a sensitivity reader, rewriting the books of great authors?
Yeah, I don't understand.
I mean, like, I want to get the reverse job. I want to have like the anti-sensitivity reader job, where I go through a screenplay, and every line that is self-congratulatory or too puritanical, where I can just cross those lines out and be like, yeah, these are the antithesis of cinema. Go fuck off. Like, yeah, that's my goal, to be the anti-sensitivity reader.
That sounds great.
Well, where can people find you online if they want to talk more about French cinema or your upcoming plans for your cult cinema that you're building there in rural France? Like, where can the Robert O'Mara?
Yeah, I mean, Twitter at Bob Unsound, basically. That's where you'll find me most days, at least. Sharing the love for film and art and shit, So yeah, that's it.
And now Robert and I can't agree on whose idea this episode was. If you love the episode, reach out to @Colbrex and let me know. And if you hate the episode and think we just were talking out of our ass the entire time, let Bob know at Bob Unsound.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing the comments on after you've seen some of these films. So yeah, please let us know what you thought of the films. Because
here's what I found. While everybody walks on eggshells all the time, constantly worried about people screaming at them or deplatforming them or freaking out, I have found that the great majority of people on Twitter and on YouTube, like 95% of them, are pretty normal, rational people. It's just a very small vocal minority that colors our impression of online discourse, and they get all the attention, all the oxygen. But in general, on this channel, I've met a ton of people with amazing taste in movies, amazing taste in books, and that sort of thing. So I will always defer to putting my faith and trust in the audience and having intelligence and taste and an open mind, and ignore the fucking buzzkills. Tell them to fuck right off.
I've never had a negative experience on Twitter. All right, and I'm on an all-time post. I've had people who disagree with me about stuff and say, oh well, because I recently watched this Monsieur Spade or Monsieur Spade with Clive Owen. Terrible. The concept was great. All the French actors were great. Clive Owen was as wooden as Pinocchio. And why was he cast in the first place? Why could they not find an American to play Sam Spade? You know what I mean? So I posted, after the last episode went down, I posted this, and I had a few people disagree. I thought Clive Owen was quite good. And I said, yeah, well, I agree to disagree. That's great. But I thought he was crap, But I don't get any bullshit. I don't get people giving me shit. People say, yeah, I don't agree with you. And that's fine with me. And that's the way it should be,
Yeah. If we all agreed on movies, what would be the point of discussing them? I never understand that when people are like, I really have to push back when you're taking, like, you don't have to announce you're pushing back. Just push back. It's fine. Like, excited, passionate discussions of movies will always be like my default setting. And so thanks again for coming on and tackling this wild topic, because I will always defer to celebrating the work of great directors, and everybody else can burn in hell. And on that positive note, hope y'all enjoyed this conversation. If so, check out some of the past episodes of Wrong Reel. I'll leave a link down below to our back catalog. But yeah, Robert O'Mara, I think he's done 15, 20 episodes now. We have a lot of
maybe not that many.
we got some good ones that are well hunting down. I love the one we did on Irish cinema, and I'll also leave a link to the documentary that Robert directed. It comes in two parts: Once Upon a Time in Ireland, Part 1 and Part 2. Part 1's gotten slightly more clicks on this channel, but I'm very proud of both of those. Went over to Dublin 2 years ago with Bill Scurry, and for a couple of days, you and Simon O'Neill were just like the world's most gracious, hospitable hosts that Ireland has ever produced, and we just had so much fun visiting movie sites and drinking beer and shooting the shit. It was an incredibly fun trip, and I look back on it very fondly.
And I just pitched you on Once Upon a Time in Paris as well today, so let's put that in the diary sometime.
Just confirm the locations exist before we go there.
Yeah, sure. Okay, don't worry.
These buildings are gone, but yeah, I love Jean-Pierre Melville. That would be a ton of fun. But
yeah,
hope y'all enjoyed the episode, and I'm going to go ahead and play the Wrong Reel video closer by Bill Scurry right now.
Ain't like it used to be, but it'll do.
You know how to whistle, don't you, Steve? You just put your lips together and blow.